Right, hello there, good afternoon and welcome to our continued coverage of the off-circle elections across Imo, Bayelsa and Kogi State. One down, two more to go, and I dare say that we're halfway into the finish of this particular process that has given us quite the drama and of course quite the developments, Mardia, to say the least, about what we've witnessed so far, from the voting to the sorting, to the counting, to the collation in Imo State. The drama has been perhaps the most talked about issue since daybreak this Sunday. And of course, we're getting a lot more of those reactions as the results continue to trickle in following the collation of results across Kogi and Imo, and as well as Bayelsa State. For Imo State, the process is over. What comes next remains to be seen, but Governor Hope Uzodinma has been declared winner for his second term in office. A landslide victory, exactly. I must add also.
Over 500,000. A lot of people
unprecedented. I've never seen that vote, come out of Imo before. And
you're wondering if it's the same people who voted for the presidential election that actually came out to vote during the governorship election. But the drama is still unfolding, and we're looking forward to what will happen at the end of the collation for Bayelsa and of course Kogi State, as they will resume at 4 p.m. We're keeping tabs with that information as well. Surely. For Kogi State, the APC is in a clear lead, although there are so many contesting issues that really have been inundating the conversation around the process from yesterday to this morning, this afternoon, where the parties are still pushing back. If you've been keeping up with our coverage of that collation center, you would have seen the pushbacks that have perhaps become the norm right now, with all of these local government areas that have been churning out several results as the agents from the various political parties push back on what they make of the process and whether or not it has been fair or it has even been credible to a certain extent. But of course, then again, this is what usually characterizes Nigerian elections, isn't it, Wardia? Exactly. INEC is addressing the press at 7 p.m. or looking forward to what INEC will be saying at that time. It's either to speak to some of the issues that was raised, concerns rather, that was raised yesterday concerning some local government area in Kogi State. Let's see what that will bring to calm the situation and how we will get to analyze at the end of the collation who becomes the next governor of Bayelsa and of course Kogi State, now that we know who the next governor of Imo State is. Hope Uzodinma, of course. For the next 4 years, foreseeably, it's still going to be Senator Hope Uzodinma, at least going by our next results so far announced. Well, let's get some insight into some of these developments, shall we? Join us on the program is someone who knows a lot more about Nigerian politics and how the game is being played. Dorothy Nuhu Akengovo is joining us on the program. She's a politician, also a presidential candidate in the recently conducted presidential election in the country. Thank you most kindly for joining us in the program. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Right. And of course, my first question to you is, gender sensitive. 52 candidates in the running for this exercise. Only three of them are women. And then unfortunately, they're not even in the, the sphere of consideration right now. First of all, just give me your take, because I saw Kogi and it's quite noticeable that women were predominantly the ones in the queues waiting to vote.
Bayelsa too.
So give me your your review of what we've witnessed so far.
I think that normally so far in Nigeria, we know that the predominant factors that define success in elections favor men. They have the resources, they have the thuggery power and know-how, and so they have a far reach, and so it's not surprising that the women are not even in the top 4 of the results that we are seeing so far. Despite the fact that we see women in the long queues, they are not exempted from the influences of patriarchy that give men or put men at an advantage than women. However, I would say that to have off-cycle elections and to have these 3 women make the list of candidates is very brave, is courageous, and I want to salute the parties who dared to have women in an off-cycle election come out as candidates. It keeps us, you know, in the spotlight. It shows that we're not yet tired, because towards the 2023 presidential election and the one for House of Reps and the Senate, we could see how there was a huge backlash and push against women's participation.
And what do you make of the quality of the exercise so far? I mean, there are quite some eventful incidents in Imo, in Bayelsa, even in Kogi, where a council chairman was embroiled in a vote buying scandal, nabbed by military personnel. The EFCC has also made some arrests, intercepted some people who are attempting to trade votes for money. Your sense of, you know, the quality of this off-circle election?
I think that this was a big test for the administration to see whether they were going to manipulate and wangle the whole thing and put it under their armpit. But with the deployment of the law enforcement agents, that was done. And the seemingly absence of interference by the federal power in terms of the arrests that have been made and so on, it shows that they are doing well with the test. There are lots of complaints. I can hear from the floor as the results are being read. Some people are calling for cancellations that didn't happen before the reporting, and they are challenging maybe some results or pre-rating and so on. So we're going to, of course, start preparing our minds for another long journey
litigations
of tribunal experiences that is going to happen. But I do believe that, as we have seen with the just concluded elections, where there isn't obvious interference, where, you know, some governors have been removed and other winners reinstated. We had in Kogi our first female senator being reinstated, despite how powerful and very dogged the governor there can be. We've had Apoti come out, you know, as a senator. So I want to believe that the government is not out to influence what is going on as far as the interest of the people.
You don't think there is bias? You don't think there is institutional favoritism at play? You think this is a fair level playing field?
You know, it's very difficult to say for sure that it's fair level playing field. If it was that fair, then we wouldn't have all the complaints that are coming up. But of course, the most strange phenomenon on the field of play right now is the fact that Dinomilai, or who has been like a very activist kind of politician, seeing how he dealt with the APC while he was there and all the things that happened, refused to even go cast himself a vote. So these go to speak, you know, to the kind of landscape that we're operating.
We haven't had, you know, another official, you know, concurring for him that he didn't cast his vote. But now, looking at this election now, I remember that during the presidential election, the IREV was a problem. And then we're going through the IREV, and some of the people who are at the Collation centers actually brought out this concern about the IREV. What was uploaded on the IREV was not what was reflecting in some of the results that were called out during collation. What would you say, you know, is the problem now using the IREV, INEC, and, you know, whatever concern that was raised yesterday?
I think that, you know, we're trying to position our democracy in terms of electronic transmission at a point where we are not yet prepared to. We don't have the infrastructure? The infrastructure is there, but the human capacity, for me, is the question. And it's not only in election, even in handwork. How many Nigerians tell us give you a dress with perfect finishing? How many masons give you a building with perfect finishing? So the same attitude is translated into our elections. You know, the technology is there, but do we have people who are dependable, who are committed and focused enough to deliver this work without any errors? You know, and that for me is an issue. If we can clear that, I'm sure that would have gained some mileage.
But when you take a look at the IREV now, what they do there is upload, and most times it's just a snapshot of the register of what happened. But we see some manipulation of figures there. I think I was looking at some of the local government areas in Kogi State, and I saw, you know, manipulation of numbers of accredited voters do not match with the number of voters that actually, you know, cast their vote.
Well, that is the interesting thing about the electronic part in the elections because we are able to see and identify these irregularities. And it is the responsibility of INEC now to address where these irregularities have come up. If they are challenged, they either pull those numbers down, and then, of course, the tribunal will have a lot of evidence to work with this time around. I believe that, you know, the errors of the past elections will not be repeated in terms of agents not reporting to their parties accurately what has happened at the polling unit.
If we can just go back to, you know, the very unfortunate situation. I say unfortunate because it you know, it was characterized by violence, you know, an assault on one of the agents in Imo State just before they concluded. One of the agents of the Labour Party was vehemently trying to make a point around how there are certain discrepancies that need to address. Looking at that, it takes Nigerians back to every time there is some sort of disruption during the collation. We always remember Olubebe back in 2015, isn't it?
True.
But it seems like 8 years down the line, we still have not perfected, you know, or at least significantly improved on the process that doesn't allow for those kind of discrepancies. I mean, even in the 2023 elections, the presidential election, Dino Melai also, in a similar fashion, wanted to disrupt the process by saying, listen, we can't go ahead with the collation when we, as party agents, don't agree with the results you're trying to collate. I mean, what are your 2 cents about what INEC, you know, is yet to do to fine-tune this process?
You know, there is no perfection in this matter because there are democracies that have existed long before ours. Until today, they haven't perfected the art. And that's why there
it's
are,
always a work
for
in
instance,
progress.
the governor in Arizona and the US, for instance, who lost, has still not congratulated the person who won. We have the Donald Trump, you know, saga that is still going on against Biden. So we do have these sort of occurrences even in the so-called developed democracies. And so it's not a surprise that in our own case that began in 1999, we are still battling with these issues. We ought to learn from them and not have to make our own mistakes because we are supposed to follow and improve not only on our experiences but on the experiences of other people. However, that is not happening at the level or measure at which we desire it to be. So these discrepancies, will continue to witness them. The good news is that there is an electoral act and that people have the right to go to the tribunal at the end of the collation. But destabilizing the entire collation process is delegitimizing voters' right who have spent hours in queue to cast their vote. They have the right to sue INEC, they have the right to sue the candidates and whoever may have.
But doesn't it also make a case for doing your due diligence? We always talk about whatever is worth doing is worth doing well. So why skip this process only to land in a court where the technicalities would at the end of the day make people feel like justice was not served?
Well, but that, you know, people say the law is an art. That's the problem, you know, because every time you go to the court of law, there are issues that ordinary people on the road may not understand in terms of how law works. Law works based on evidence. It doesn't care about your public opinion. It's the evidence that you submit, and evidence is guided by principles. Because if you have exhibits that have been tampered with, that didn't follow the right channel and so may have been compromised, the judges are going to listen as the lawyer carry out examination so that they can reach a conclusion beyond reasonable doubt. And so whoever is making a case has to make a case beyond reasonable doubt. INEC, I'm sure that, you know, everybody will do their best, but you know, that is subjective. Imagine that you are watching football. You are querying that striker who shot the ball over the bar. But only that person knows what their eyes were seeing when they were in the, you know, field of play. Because you could see somebody to the left or to the right flank that was free. They could have passed the ball to that person and scored the goal. But that doesn't happen. It's a different ball game when you are the one playing. When you are the one simply observing and not taking the punches directly, you could see things. It's easier
said than done.
Voila.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you're one of few politicians, and I dare say the only politician who has gone into election has lost an election, and there seems to be this consensus that the 2023 presidential election, for instance, was marred with all of these irregularities. IRF didn't work, and INEC didn't do a good job, blah, blah, blah. But you also seem to have, you know, perhaps be a little more diplomatic about, you know, your understanding of why these gaps
pragmatic.
exist. Oh, okay. But also you hear what's going on the field, right? You hear what Dino Mela is saying. You hear what Ajaka is saying. And how they think this whole process is, you know, being subverted. There's some sort of complicity. Pre-filled forms, even before the elections, the votes were cast. There are results already that are making the rounds and things like that. The Beavers accreditation process bypassed, as noted by Yaga Africa, as noted by other civil society organizations who are observing the elections. Do you believe that sometimes politicians are exaggerating the situation, or do you also believe that, you know, these politicians know what they're saying and their criticisms and complaints should not be viewed as, you know, one being made by someone who is a sore loser?
Okay, first of all, I aspired as a presidential candidate. Aspirant.
Aspirant.
In the just concluded elections. I didn't get my party's flag for obvious reasons. So just to make that clear. So the final election, I didn't have a ballot box. In fact, but I am capable of being as objective as humanly possible, because I believe that it is only in that objective analysis that we can move the nation forward. I am willing to accept where I didn't do as well as I ought to, and maybe that is why I am better at everything every day, because I subject myself to scrutiny. And that is what I expect everyone else to do. We can't all put the blame on the system when we are a part of the system. What is it we could have done ourselves not to find ourselves in the kind of quagmire that we are in? I do not subscribe to waving away completely the complaints that are being made, because if for nothing else, they help us become better. Because if you complain, I'm going back, I'm going to take a second look at what I've done to see how I can improve so that we don't have this complaint anymore. But there will always be complaint. There will always be those accusations of pre-filled documents. And that's why we have the accreditation process that is able to tell us. Because if you have pre-filled your forms, there is no way you are going to predict how many people are going to queue in front of the IRF that is...
But with all due respect, you know how the people in your constituency can be criminal-minded.
Hello! We are all part of Nigeria.
Right.
You know, we don't expect angels where the whole system is not angelic. You know, so we only have the kind of politicians that come out of us. If we have a law-abiding society, we will have more credible people coming out in politics. Unfortunately, when we were saying goodbye to the military rule, all the activists who were at the forefront of fighting for democracy to be reinstated to Nigeria didn't somehow get into the race to contest for anything, because they perceived their role simply as activists. And so they left the whole place blank for thugs to take over. And the thugs have entrenched themselves. And it's going to take quite a long time and a huge battle. Just the way we uprooted the military to uproot the thugs that have infiltrated our democracy.
So you've tried to answer the question, but what I didn't get is, are these accusations or concerns raised by political actors, are they baseless?
You know, I wouldn't say they are baseless at all, because there is no smoke without fire. They may be exaggerated, but they would definitely have some basis. And it is now left for the judicial, the INEC, you know, to sift through, given the act and its provisions, the law and its provisions, to give us eventually the leaders that emerge from that process as having won the elections. It's unfortunate that we are not getting the winner straight, you know, because I think we also have an issue. People don't want to accept that they have failed. You know, there is a lot of ego in action. Like, what is wrong with saying, oh yeah, okay, I agree, I didn't make it this time, let me go back and re-strategize so that next time I do better. And I work with the system so that the system becomes better, so that when next I come, then the results are, you know, we have a more credible result. Right. Every time we are going to the tribunal, every time we are going to the court.
Right. Let's talk about Imo, because that is done and dusted. Yeah. 540,000 votes for Governor Hope Uzodimma. My goodness, that is something that most people will, not necessarily the win, but the numbers involved. Because when we were covering it, we were getting reports on the ground. The turnout was low. The sit-at-home order might have, you know, negated the impact of people coming out and vote. There's the NLC strike that has disrupted people's life over the past couple of days. Give me a sense of what you make of this.
Let's look at 2015.
Right.
Everywhere Boko Haram and the insurgents had sacked communities, there were results.
Right.
What happened? It means that somehow people are becoming gods and are performing miracles in our democracy. Where people do not show up, there are claims that people did, you know. And I have been a polling unit agent in my past. I started being a polling unit agent in 1983 presidential elections when I was still a teenager. I know how these things work. Once you have a register and you don't bring everybody on the register to vote, you are creating room for people to thumbprint and declare false results. The best thing is to have people come out to vote.
Even with the protocols that we have with beavers, where you have to thumbprint to accredit someone before the vote.
You know that there are instances that I have seen people go and they are thumbprinting all their fingers and nothing is coming out. And in the end, there is invitation of the INEC rep to come and then tell us what to do. Sometimes they change the machine and then it doesn't work and then they let it go. Sometimes the network is slow and so we are not moving fast. Whether that is deliberate or not is something else, you know, because there were questions of slowing down machines in some Ekiti elections, you know. So we know that these kind of things can happen. People can manipulate the machines.
But isn't that why we have INEC and also security agents in some of these polling units managing and overseeing what's going on in these different polling units in the offices in elections?
Well, I think that the corrupt nature of the country plays its role as well in our elections, unfortunately. I have seen candidates who hold meetings with their followers, supporters, and they say, don't rig for me. I want to win genuinely, and if I lose, nothing spoil. But there are people within the party who are going to say, after the meeting, don't mind them, we must make sure we win this election. And they go ahead and they do what they want to do in order to get the win. So there is still ongoing corrupt practices. It has reduced significantly with the introduction of the electronics. What has happened is there is before election manipulation that happens. It's not on the election day that people are going to come and start giving money necessarily now. It can be before, it can be after, you know. So, but it has reduced significantly. We are not saying it's not there anymore. There is still some measure of corruption in the process.
Okay, and you know, just staying with that Imo result, we're going to get to Bayelsa and Kogi, where the results are still trickling in. The Collation is on a break right now. They will be coming back in the next hour or so. But you look at that result and you look at the margin of the victory itself. This is what you call a landslide victory for Governor Hope Uzodimma, right? But also, if you, how do you put it on a scale? That kind of victory vis-a-vis the attacks that we've seen, the irregularities that have been reported. I mean, how do you score, you know, an election like this? Because you're divided between trying to see the good side and also trying to, you know, appreciate the magnitude of the complaints.
Yeah. You know, like you said during the intro on the Imo elections, are we seeing a replay of the Labour Party win in those enclaves? It's a big question. how we will explore what happens to come out with the hard facts has to do with in-depth investigation of a neutral party, which is what non-governmental organizations that are interested in good governance must do. They need to go in there, interview people. Let's have a balance, you know, in terms of report of what actually obtained during those elections. But it's very highly suspicious that will have people come out in such large numbers. And I still remember that this hope is the miracle of number 4 becoming number 1. Right. So we don't know if those miracles have repeated themselves again this time.
But looking at what has transpired in these elections, you did mention NGOs. Of course, we have civil society organizations who are monitoring this election. And they did talk about some level of harassment, which of course I thought that it didn't hinder their work and they did a good job. But do you think that, you know, amplifying some of these ills in elections and, you know, talking about it has really yielded positive result in solving some of these problems? Because it seems like everybody is talking and nobody is doing anything
No. We've had our Electoral Act reviewed over and over again.
But has it helped?
As a result, yes, it has. We can't be, the things we're talking about now, how many ballot boxes they snatch? Right. Those days they will snatch them. In fact, sometimes you won't see a ballot box. In the end, you will see all the results on the screen. Right. Things have changed. We must admit that. Things have changed. We don't have the desired ideal that we are targeting, but there has been some significant improvement. The reports that the civil society organizations bring always help a review. And you know, they don't stop at that. After the election, there's going to be intense advocacy, looking at the provisions of the Act to see what else can we modify towards upcoming elections so that we'll have more credible results. And that is where we must continue to invest. Right. Any government that is interested in upholding the peace and prosperity of this nation needs to have a good vote for people who are doing advocacy on good governance, so that they can carry out their jobs both during and after elections.
For some Nigerians and for some election observers, this is the Redemption Act for INEC. How well do you think they've done so far, based on what you know about the elections, what was said, and what the outcomes have been so far?
You know, the only escape that INEC has had all along is the fact that if the results were not displayed real time, did it mean that the result was different from what happened at the polling unit level? And so far, nobody has been able to prove that that delay in transmitting on in real time has changed the figures of what happened at the election level.
Let's just give a quick rundown. I said now, right? I said rather 2:57 p.m. So a little over an hour ago, only 94.56% of the vote cast in Kogi State were uploaded on IREV. Imo State, where there's already been a declaration, only 92.56% has been uploaded on IREV. So much of that will still be done after the winner has already been announced. In Bayelsa State, just 92.91% has been uploaded. Of the 2,242 polling units, only 2,085 have so far been uploaded. So well over 90, that's quite commendable. But also it is something that you expect to be seamless, so much so that when it comes to collation, you're not going to have all these discrepancies, because we saw some of the agents, whenever they listen, they say what you are collating right now is not what we have on our results sheets or from what we're hearing from our agents. So there's a need for you to review this whole process. And I know it has inundated some of the issues in the 2023 general election. And that's where we circle back to the issue of fine-tuning the process, election after election. How much room should we give for some of these complaints to be addressed, such that it does not stop the process from going on, but also it does not put aside the complaints to later be discussed or litigated at the tribunals?
I believe that we can do away with all the bottlenecks and the hurdles by making our entire voting system electronic.
Right.
If I have my ATM card, I have my BVN, and I can go to my ATM machine or POS center and withdraw my money, and I can see my alert. We can build a system where we can cast our vote via electronic.
And we can see the tally perhaps also electronically.
I mean,
right.
If alert drop,
right.
you see it immediately. You can see the figures going up and down, right. And you know, right. I have seen where they are tracking public polls. And as soon as you go and you do the poll, you see it shows immediately, right. Yes. We can do the same thing with our election if we really mean to have the credible elections we're talking about. I know that these machines are made by people, and our people say, Oyibo, we make pencil, now you make eraser. Right. You know, we know that that is there, but it will go a long way to limit the expenditure that goes into our elections. It will, you know, you can imagine how many people were dispatched to go and monitor these elections. If you can sit in your parlor and just press one thing and your vote is gone, and you go to the polling unit and it's there and it's reflecting immediately, it will reduce discrepancies to a great extent. And I don't see any reason why we have been hesitant in making sure that we progress with our elections the way we have with our banking system.
Okay, when we take a look at this whole saga about election, getting to the tribunal, and now making a case, while all of this is happening, there have been some swearing in done. The other governor is already, you know, halfway, or let's say months into being the governor of a particular state. Ideally, shouldn't we be thinking of a way out, maybe solving all of the electoral issues, and then coming back to swear in someone who we probably think is not the governor or shouldn't be the governor of a particular state?
I agree with you that we need to solve that. You know, somebody who obviously is found by the court not to have been elected duly has ruled and led the government for a year or two. And I think we have deadlines now on when these cases must end, yes. Because that will help us to curb these kind of occurrences. But we need to go beyond that. We need to put in place some sort of, you know, can we make them refund some of the benefits that they would have gotten during that period? I think that will help people to slow down a bit so they won't be rushing into things, because, you know, if they've been paid a salary, they are not refunding it. If they've been given some benefits, they are not returning them because they have been kicked out of the government, having been found, you know, ineligible. So we need to put some things in place beyond.
I think the reason why we're here with the off-cycle elections is because of this same particular issue that we're talking about, right? Where the new guy comes in and then he has to start afresh, minus the 8-9 months the other individual has spent. And then we find ourselves in this off-season election, which, by the way, the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, is advocating that the National Assembly should find a way to abolish it so that we can synchronize all our elections at one go, because that is global best practice. I wonder what you think about that.
Yes, it is, you know, where we have seen thriving democracies. Because when we stagger these elections, they also stagger us, you know, because we are destabilized in a way. Imagine that now our attention, which should be focused in monitoring what the present government is doing, the appointments that are going on, and the performance of those that are already in cabinet, you know, we've been distracted. So much can happen now. And before we come back after all these elections to focus on what is going on now, plenty water for don't pass under bridge, you know. So I agree with you totally that we need to have a way of, you know, dealing with the fallout of elections and getting right into season. Otherwise, we have to make it a law that the new person simply continues from where the other one stopped.
Right, because we always say government is a continuum. At least they always say it. The politicians always say government is...
Well, you just said so.
Let's take a look at incumbency. Now, you know, in the last election, the governorship election, a lot of people said, okay, I think the power of incumbency, we're trying to fix that. And we saw what happened in that election. Do you think that we have surpassed at that point where we say the power of incumbency doesn't work in Nigeria? Because you have all of the resources as an incumbent governor, and you have made perhaps an anointed candidate, or you're seeking re-election into office. Is there a way that we can solve that problem?
Yeah, first of all, I don't think we have surpassed it. All right. Because the dynamics that governed the 2023 elections were out of the world. You know, we've not had those experiences before, where a single party was fragmented into 4 places, where there was a heated religious, line of thought in the elections, and the ethnicity factors that crept in, plus this power of incumbency, where a party can be making policies that are inimical to the emergence of their own candidate. These elements were just something else in these elections. So unless we have an election where we do not have all of these controversies, plus insecurity, minus all these narrow change things that took place and so on and so forth, and then we see that incumbency power is not working, then we can say, oh, we've surpassed it. But we are beginning to hear voices protesting in Kogi, where people are complaining, oh, the anointed candidate of Bello is the one who is sweeping the votes. They are complaining something must have happened. People are accusing of pre-written results. And so all those power of incumbency is what is being challenged right now. Right. So I don't think we've surpassed it, given what happened in the previous election. But it kind of just threw more light in how power of incumbency can work or undermine a democracy.
There are 2 groups of winners if you look at it critically, right? One is the politicians who get their hands raised as winners of the election, and another group that wins are lawyers, because they love disputed elections. They love disputed elections.
Well, they have to earn a living.
Exactly. But speaking of Kogi, right? So far, the APC candidate Odoro is in the lead, followed by Ajaka closely, I might add also, closely by Ajaka and Senator Dino Malaya, whom we're yet to confirm, his participation in the voting exercise is in a distant third. You look at what happened in Kogi yesterday and INEC's statement regarding those issues raised around bypassing beavers in some areas, areas also with a notable, sizable polling units as well as voters. Give me a sense of how INEC is managing this, because the one local government that was reported to have recorded these incidences was the very first local government at the Collation Center today, with some 900
with some
something
of the highest votes.
Yeah, with just 900 plus votes to account for so far.
I listened to one of the returning officers who said, how do you challenge the vote we got in an enclave where we have the largest influence? In every state, we know the strongholds of political parties. I have heard repeatedly people say, people can only rig elections where they are strongest. You don't go to where you are weak and attempt to then go beat you, so me.
Right.
So we cannot pretend that the element of deliberate manipulations to put people at additional advantage did not happen. However, we do not have the forensic evidence to say beyond reasonable doubt that that was the case. And that is why there is still room for people to go to tribunal and challenge whatever has happened.
And where do you stand on this whole idea that the courts have now become a permanent player in our electoral process, that the people cannot just go on election day and decide who their state assembly member is, governor is, House of Representative member is, senator is, president, without any fuss afterwards, that the courts have now become a permanent step towards election victory.
I mean, since Al Gore, in the most acclaimed whatever democracy, we saw that there were cases, you know, Trump is still in the court and so on. So, and then there are also governors who are still, you know, experiencing court cases there. So it's not an unusual thing for people to have these court cases. However, what breaks my heart in our case is the way we continually depict our courts as compromised. It makes people lose faith, even in the courts. So people still go to tribunal, up to Supreme Court, and they come out and they are still like, no, we are sure we want this election, something must have happened, judges have collected money and so on. There has to be where we draw the line. Al Gore followed his case to a point where he thought, oh, the nation is getting embarrassed. And he came on TV and declared, okay, I surrender. There is something that we must do to save our country some shame. It's normal for patriotic citizens to do that. Make your case to a point and let it go so that we can have faith in the system. There are other ways to work this system so that we won't continue to put question marks there.
Yeah. Well, what if people say that what you just said right now is akin to glossing over the problem, plastering over the, you know, the cracks on the wall, pretending as if there is no problem, just to save face? But that in itself could be counterproductive in the long run.
We are not going to say don't complain. We're saying complain, but know where to draw the line. So we are not pulling the entire system down. We can implode. Can you imagine that if we have a situation where we think all judges are corrupt, every case they are collecting money? It's not every case that people are collecting money. So the judge goes to London and he's going to see the presidential candidate or somebody to collect money. Somebody travel, you know, we are doing too much self-destruction. That's what I'm saying. Let us minimize it. Make the point. Let the authorities have their role to play, and let the human rights activists continue to push. You know, people like Chidi, Odinkalu, they are always on TV, Sam Amadi, people like that, they're always there. Falana, raising issues, creating judicial precedents and so on. Let's allow that to continue to happen. It's a healthy way to allow our system organically groom and grow itself.
I understand that the Independent National Electoral Commission, which is our electoral body in Nigeria, of course, is not perfect.
Yeah.
But don't you think that all of these issues circles back to the activities of the Independent National Electoral Commission? We understand that the body is not perfect, but you know, we're supposed to be having an election which does not have to do with inviting INEC as a respondent in court. Because don't you think that if they put their acts together, we shouldn't be having, you know, this tribunal cases set up? And from the last election, you see how this is turning out. What can we do better? What can INEC do better to actually see that we have an election that doesn't have to circle back to the court?
I think that we need to re-engineer the law that puts INEC together, because INEC has been given such power that it decides the best way it deems fit to run things. That is plenty of autonomy. And all we can do is to check those clauses and see how we can rework them so that we have an INEC that is answerable to the people. You know, because I think it's too much independence for us to say, no, okay, we can't force them because they have the right to decide. They've been given the right to decide in which way they deem best. And so whatever they did was done in the best of the circumstances that were available. That's too much, you know, liberty for any organization to
So I really, let's just ask this one question. I really want you to analyze the action of INEC yesterday. They put out a statement yesterday concerning Kogi State that some local government areas, there were issues of overvoting manipulations and all of that. And alas, today we see that, some of these concerns that were raised and during the collation, some of these local governments were the first to be read. What would you say concerning this? Should they have waited for INEC to tackle this? And shouldn't there be some sort of statement put out there, just like they did yesterday, to say that we have looked into this and this is our findings, we've done our investigations, and these activities that took place in this local government never happened. So they can actually put the people at rest and also boost their confidence, or the confidence of the people on the electoral body.
Well, that's the right thing that they should have done, but given the circumstances under which they're working, I don't know if they have the room to have that kind of press briefing. Imagine that they just went on break, and then in 1 hour they are going to come back to they have a time limit within which to finish all of the work they're doing. I believe that having made that earlier statement yesterday positions people who have taken part in the elections to have cause to go to the tribunal eventually. And then again, your question, must we always end up in the tribunal? If it helps us to reinvent our democracy, we are all for it. Let's do the tribunal so that we end up with a better democracy.
It's safe to say, just in the interest of full disclosure, we have nothing against the courts, but it's just not the proper way. Usually, people win and lose elections at the polling units, and then the other person concedes. Even if you don't concede, at least no embarrassing court statement, litigations, tribunals, appeals, Supreme Court, and so on and so forth. But also speaking about some of these developments, the Independent National Electoral Commission has had to deal with quite a lot going into this. It has had a battered reputation from the fallout of the 2023 general elections. Depends on who you ask, really. But there is this overall sense that they didn't do a good job in the 2023 general elections. I'd like to get your thoughts on what margin of error should be acceptable. Surely they can never be perfect. But what margin of error is acceptable, where we can say, listen, the election is not clean, it's not all the way through perfect, but yeah, what happened is not significant enough to say, oh, the election is a complete mess. And what do the people need to do to cultivate that mindset? Because if something happens in one polling unit, people have a way of generalizing it to say, oh, this is how our elections are. Because we hear from the civil society organizations yesterday, their sample size, although is sizable, is not adequate enough to make certain generalizations about the elections, right? But it's still valuable information nonetheless.
No, even if there is just one complaint, if you have good social media campaign, you can mar the entire election. And that is one thing that happened towards 2023 election. The extent up to which social media played a role. Remember that all these influencers, they haven't necessarily been trained in journalism. They don't know all the 10 or is it 13 rules that there are to minimize harm, while reporting. So they see anything, they just say it. They don't see, they say it for as long as they have traffic. And so we need to be mindful of the role of the social media when it comes to what is the margin of error that is permissible. No error is permissible. Somebody is paying dearly for any error that is made. In principle, we shouldn't be having errors at all. But it is because we know that we are in a human society where errors will happen whether we like it or not. Because you and I here are not perfect. I'm sure if we replay this after, we will see things that we should have done better, So it's the same with INEC, see? So, but what must happen is that the tribunals, the judges, must continue to be held in high regard and trusted enough to do justice. Let's not say when it suits us, the courts are good. But when it does not suit us, then the courts have received bribe. People who have been reinstated after they had been declared lost, they celebrated by the same judicial system. Now they have gone to court, they have not won. The same system has become demonic. that is not how to run things. If when it worked for you, it was good. When it works for another person, it is still good. And that's the attitude we must have.
And what about those attacks? In Bayelsa, just before the elections, one INEC official was kidnapped.
Yeah.
Happily, it was reported that he has been released. But also now we're hearing that some INEC officials in Brass were also kidnapped. I mean, let's talk about the safety of our elections. I mean, we saw massive deployment of security operatives, the military officials, DSS, EFCC, the Nigerian police, civil defense, everyone was deployed.
Vigilante.
Yes, but you know, we still have to deal with issues like this where INEC officials are not safe, and we've always talked about the safety of election officials, because if you can't guarantee their safety, then you can understand why they will be forced to compromise sometimes, because they have to think about their own safety.
Sure.
What are we still not doing about this particular
people are not being brought to book? You know, we don't have a sophisticated enough law enforcement system to be able to fish out people who perpetrate these acts. And they have continued to rob us of the best when it comes to process and systems of our elections. And that's why women are not also participating at the level at which they should. Because these men, look at the entourage they have all the time. They can afford to pay the security to follow them with 5 cars, even when they are still campaigning. They have bulletproof vehicles. How many women can afford that? We need to do something about our security. And what is happening during election is just a reflection of our insecurity status as the entire country is concerned. If we work on our security system for everyone, then our INEC officials will also benefit. But what we are seeing that till now, honestly, we still have kidnappings going on, communities are still being sacked, and so many things are happening, you know, abductions even within the cities. That is not right. There is no way we can protect INEC officials if we have failed to protect the Nigerian citizens. Right. There is no way it's going to work. So the best thing is to revisit the security architecture, put in as much technology as we can. The drones are there. They can follow and survey everywhere. We have satellites in the air. We can zoom in and zoom out of places. As soon as there are reports, the phones are trackable. I think it has to do with political will eventually. If we are willing to clean up Nigeria and make Nigeria a safe space, we will be able to do that.
Okay. Let's talk about the women that you talk about today. Like yesterday, like, you know, the elections before, they always show up and they save the day. Unfortunately, at the receiving end of their votes are usually men who end up disappointing, you know, in government. Not all of them, by the way, just to be clear, but give me. I'm trying to strike a balance.
No, don't strike it.
Just the way,
they have failed us, haven't they?
Just the way I'm being outnumbered on this particular platform is how, you know.
Are you really scared right now?
A lot of women outnumber the men, you know, in Kogi, in Imo, in Bayelsa.
In the queues.
They're very passionate about the voting process. I mean, in 2023, we saw how most of them were not willing to compromise their votes by selling it to anybody because they really want their votes to count. But let's talk about that and square the whole conversation around voter apathy. We have these young, vibrant men and women and young women who are not showing up on election day. But you go to these rural communities, people who are always deprived of the basic amenities, they're the ones who are still showing up in the hopes that this time around they're going to vote in someone who is going to make a difference. What should we do about that, especially in trying to address this falling voter turnout? Election after election, the percentages keep going down. We have less and less voters coming out on election day to make those critical decisions.
Yeah, you know, it was very worrisome when we saw the percentage of voters that elected the president, as heated as the entire process was. You know, so the question now is, these young people, like you have said, I have had issues with all the passion that we see on social media that does not leave the face of the screen to come to the streets. Somehow we need to begin to deliberately target young people. When you have finished venting out on your handset, you have cooled off. Who does the road work for you? Generation sorrow soke. You have finished to sorrow on your phone. Come out and vote. This attitude of, hey, I know my vote won't count. You haven't even cast it anyway. So how do you want it to count? Come and vote. The more we vote, the less space we give for manipulation. And so this voters' education needs to be continuous. It needs to be ongoing. We shouldn't wait until when the elections are at the corner. Then we start going to assemble people and educating them about the relevance of their vote. You know, we need to do that in and out of season. And I think that's the only way that we can get to work on the voters' apathy. You know, women were always dependable.
Exactly.
If we tell you we'll come out and queue, we will come out and we will queue.
But that doesn't work, you know, for women supporting women. I've seen women on the ballot. So we've seen women queuing up in Kogi and Bayelsa. We also see that women are on this ballot, but they are not getting the number of votes they deserve from these women. Is that something that has to do with competency or, you know, finance? What is the issue?
Finance, competence, education and awareness level.
Do you think that some of these women are not competent enough to actually vie for this position?
No, they are competent enough. It is the voters themselves that I'm talking about now, the capacity to undertake analysis and make the right choice is very difficult because the literacy level among women is very low. So to just think that you can delete patriarchy from their minds suddenly and they will go and vote for a woman, it's a big deal. The strongest opposition I got in my family when I came out to aspire for president was my mother. She couldn't just imagine. And the way she was talking it, you know, they never give women this kind of positions. So where are you going to kill yourself on this matter? And so on and so forth. She had things that have been drummed into her head since she was a kid. It took a long time for my mother to get turned around. Not by me talking. If I talked, it was bouncing off. It was my uncles, my cousins, my brothers who went. In fact, she was even ashamed that her daughter
was attempting to be the president.
Yes, she was ashamed. She would tell you, say, they just saw her today and they were greeting her, Mama President. And she would say it in a as if they were mocking her. My brothers told her, say, Mama, put your head tie in front like this, raise your shoulders. Because not every mother is blessed to have a daughter like this. It took a long time. So women have been conditioned to think in a certain way. It will take time. It will take resources to turn them around so that they can begin to see things the way we do. I don't think it's a deliberate attempt to make sure women don't get there. I just hold the system accountable for how women have been socialized.
Okay. And that in itself is another work in progress that we need to do to politically reform our system here in Nigeria. It's in a couple of minutes time, actually, in about 20 or so minutes, the collations will resume in Kogi. The APC is in the lead, a very short margin so far. But of course, there are a lot more local government areas to come. So it's safe to say that it's too early to call it for any of these top two at this point, if we're going to be honest, right? Top two, whether it's APC or the SDP. But we're not ruling anyone out, just to be on the safer side. So we're going to take a quick break. Our coverage continues in just a moment. Join us after the break.
But the local government I went and the area I covered, I didn't notice much. Maybe they have their way of taking the cash, but it was not open if it was done that area. And you know, the nature in Africa, this problem of vote buying has come to stay because of poverty. And that is what we are suffering now. But so far, so good. I can give the electoral process 65%.
appraisal of the electoral process in Bayelsa State?
Well, so far the election here in Bayelsa has been so far so good. Like we all know, the electoral process in Nigeria is still growing and developing. We are not there yet, but we are not where we used to be. And most especially when you look at the issues of ballot box snatching, vote buying, and other issues that affect elections. We still have with us, though, voters' apathy. We have seen this since as much as I can remember 1993, where the number of those who are registered and those who actually come out to vote. So look, less than 60% of those who are registered don't come to vote. I remember that election of Imo Bayelsa, over 23 million people actually came out and they were registered, if I'm not mistaken. But the numbers that came out to vote was so much less, about 14 million people and all of that. And so that's what we are seeing the pattern everywhere, every election. And the one in Bayelsa is not different from what we have seen. Which brings us to the issue of voters' education, voters' confidence. Because one thing that people have said is that where you have electoral malpractices and where the will of the people does not prevail often, there is apathy, there's loss of confidence in the process by citizens. And so that's one area we need to work on, engaging the citizens to have confidence and to know that regardless of what they think about the elections, if they don't come out to vote, then somebody will use their vote. And so this is very key. And so far, I think that in my observing of the elections, going around, we saw in one, I think, was it in Ward 3, I think Ward 5 here in Yenagua, where the ballots were snatched. But due to the hard work of the security agencies, the ballot boxes were recovered and then the votes were counted. And everybody applauded the work of the security agencies. And for me, the citizens who refused to run away, regardless of the guns and all that could have affected even their lives at the end of the day. So I think that we are growing, but then the security of lives during elections need also to be strengthened. How that can be strengthened is very, 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 very key, the security of lives. Because when citizens are afraid that I could lose my life because I came out to exercise my franchise, they too will also not come out to come and vote. Stay here with us until we find a mechanism to deal with vote buying. Because I give you one reason why vote buying will still be here. On election day, you are asking artisans, those who live by the day, those who earn 3,000 naira from selling akara, those who earn 2,000 naira from riding okada, not to go to do their job. They live by the day. It is the money they make in the day that they use in feeding their families. And so when they see somebody coming to give them 7,000, 8,000, 5,000 for that day, it means that their life is dependent on that day. It becomes the sole reason why they want to take any action. Less than the majority will take money and still vote their conscience. Because as far as they are concerned, their conscience is where their bread is. And so somebody who is giving them bread is already the owner of their conscience. And so until we find a mechanism to deal with that, we will have that with us. Secondly, even vote buying is getting more sophisticated by the day. It is no longer seen in the street anyhow, or what you call it, browsing on the street. People are now becoming more strategic in their vote buying, either by giving people tally to come and meet them somewhere and all of that. How do you prove all of that in court that people were induced? They also know because that the proof of vote buying in court is cumbersome. It's not as easy as it should be. It's not party rights. Then they are confident in doing so. And sadly, even with the introduction of EFCC and other agencies to curb these incidences, these things still happen. In other local government, a situation like that happened during this election. Their vote buying went on unabated. And so these are the issues we are facing with vote buying. Vote buying is here with us. Hunger that is endemic is an enabler of vote buying, and then lack of proper prosecution of those who are involved or proof of it is also another reason. Until the civil society, the government and all stakeholders are able to find a very clear way to deal with this, it will still be here with us.
Welcome back. It's still the off-circle coverage of the election here at Trusted Television, and we've been having a conversation around the collation that is taking place in Kogi and, of course, Bayelsa at the moment. Imo, done and dusted, and Hope Uzodinma has been made the winner, according to INEC records, actually. But right now, let's get into the conversation, because few minutes from now, we'll be heading back to the collation centers to see how these numbers turn out for the different political parties that are participating in this election in Kogi and Bayelsa. And we still have our guest in the studio, and she has been doing wonderfully well analyzing the situation in the off-cycle election for Bayelsa, Kogi and Imo. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we were talking about, women participation before we went on that break, and now let's take a look at getting into the next election now. And I know that a lot of advocacy programs have been organized to teach women, tell women that, we need to support each other. We need to believe in another woman, because a woman, of course, is a mother of nations, and she can do well if she is elected into some sort of political position in the country. Now, what do we do now? Getting into the next election. In a few years' time, we see another election coming up. Anambra and Osun State, Ekiti as well, will also resurface even before the general elections. Now, what should we be doing at this point before getting the election, educating women, Nigerians as a whole, about women participating and occupying very strategic positions in the country?
I think to start with, we should have given women who are contesting in these elections more visibility. There is no reason whatsoever that should have limited what we are seeing to the 3 pictures we are seeing on the screen. Even if she is the last, after the 14, put your 1, 2, 3 and put the woman, so that the woman's face is there, even if it's 3 votes she's getting.
You don't think it's going to be embarrassing?
No. What's embarrassing? Instead, it will touch our conscience as we are seeing it. You mean of all the 100 of us that were on the queue, only 3 of us vote for her? We not do well. But we are not seeing that. So it is not making us challenge our mindset, because there is what you will see that will call you to caution, because you will ask yourself questions, you will introspect. But we have just discarded all the effort that these women have made to emerge among the several candidates.
As you know, right, democracy is about the will of the people. So the people decide these individuals are the top 3 individuals. Who are we?
Yeah, they are the top 3. But what I'm saying is that even if the woman in the 14 is the 14th, put your top 3. But because she's the only woman, put her there as well. So that we can begin to build confidence of women. Let's not throw away completely the effort that they have put in. That would help. We're talking about creating solutions, right? On how to improve what is going on. So for me, 1, we needed to have done that. Let's keep visibility, focus on them. It shows the political will that we have, to support women to grow. The other thing that we must continue to do is those gender bills that were thrown out of the National Assembly must be revisited, not only for paper and photo purposes, but we must make sure that those are passed into law. It's a compulsory step to take going forward. If we do not pay respect to those bills and pass them to law, women will continue to operate where we are. It will take us much longer time for us to get to where we want to go. That is beginning to win elections, and occupying positions. Imagine now we have 4 senators.
Who are women.
Yeah, that's very, very poor. So the only way we can redeem that is to ensure that the affirmative...
Up and down after every election cycle.
No, it goes down.
It goes down. I think in the last administration, we had more women. Yes.
And then now we have 4.
We had 7 in the last administration. And then we
so now we have only 4. That is like 50% of what we had. And none of the former ones came back.
Perhaps
all these are new.
It's one of those situations where it's quality over quantity. Maybe. If the 4, give us a lot more.
No. They will get drowned in the flow. No. We can have both. After all the men that are there, now quality, put them there.
Okay.
We know now. It's not quality.
I shouldn't have asked that question in the first place, but...
We need to continue to also educate women. Right. We need to vote a certain budget to building capacities of women to participate in the process, because we don't have the resources, and the only way equity can say to be upheld is when we deliberately make effort to make women succeed. Just like we have quota system, we have geographical zoning systems, let us have the gender one too.
We have the gender policy that we're still not abiding by. I remember last year the Buhari administration signed it, but to date not much has been
because it's a policy. It's not enforceable. That's why But we're saying now, let's make some things enforceable. So let's adopt the 35% affirmative action, and let that be enforceable. It means that if we don't get it, we can take everybody to court.
I thought that after that protest by women last year for the 30% affirmation, and I thought something was going to happen, just before the International Women's Day.
You know that, in fact, it was on International Women's Day. Just before.
That was 8th of March. 8th of March is International Women's Day.
So we were in front of the house. We protested. We noticed that they were a bit afraid. They were going to recall the bills and look at them. But I think they were afraid also because elections were also just around the corner. And they didn't want to make the landscape more unpredictable than it already was. And so they decided to just, maintain.
Okay.
But we are hoping that this time around, some meaningful action will be taken.
Okay.
At least out of the 3 requests, let us have the 35%
which would be, pushing the needle significantly. But also, in talking about the current state of affairs with regards to the elections, the widespread call for cancellation in Imo, the PDP and the Labour Party are calling for the cancellation of the polls. In Kogi, you have a similar call by people who are losing as far as the vote count is concerned. And before getting to the ballot itself, the campaign season has been less than friendly, toxic even, violent in some cases. Give me a sense of how these calls could further fuel tensions in some volatile areas, especially if these politicians keep calling for protests, cancellation, because we're already seeing protests in Imo, in Bayelsa, and in parts of Kogi also regarding the outcome of this election.
Well, I don't think protest ever won any election for anybody to start with, so that's not the best way to go. The law does not say if you go and you protest, we'll collect from whoever and give to you. No. Prove to us that out of the vote cast, you got 90. This person got 15, but has been declared winner. That's how to redeem the situation and get the mandate back. But we have a situation where people are very bad losers. They are so sore that they cannot think about the collective wellness. They are only thinking about, their own ambition. And they are also not respectful of the effort that people have put in. They have trivialized every campaign that's been made, every penny that's been spent, every media effort that's been. How can you call for cancellation of an election? If there are irregularities in specific places, challenge those irregularities and call for cancellation or a repeat of election, whatever review, for those particular polling units. But because there are, mishaps in 1, 2, 3, then you now say, let's cancel the entire election. How much money has Nigeria put in there that you want us to cancel the whole election? The question is, if they paid for it, would they say the same thing? So it is high time that we began to challenge these voices. Let us not listen to them and get ourselves heated up in such a way that we begin to trivialize the effort that has been put in by everyone else in this process.
And when it comes to conducting elections, how do we need to address some of the gaps in the mindset that Nigerians have about elections? This all or nothing. It's either perfect or it is completely rigged, because you get a sense that it's either people are supporters of the winner and that's why they're accepting the result, or they're on the other side of, oh, it's rigged, and that's why there's no other explanation why this person is winning. There seems to be no middle ground where people can see both sides and say, listen, this might not be perfect, but we can accept this and work to improve it. How do we cultivate that type of mindset?
We need to continue to work on the mindset of Nigerians. You know, it's not a guesswork that we have allowed a lot of our moral values to be eroded. The more we tend towards a monetary value system, the more our conscience, you know, is dulled towards issues that should keep humanity awake and alert. So we need to work on that component of us that makes us revisit our value systems, to know that we can't always win. One, that when people think you've lost, you've actually won. And that's what I told people who were saying, sorry, we had how it turned out. I'm like, no need for sorry. I've learned a lot in the process. Even if I don't get to aspire or contest for anything again, I have the capacity to mentor younger people, to mentor women who are come. I mean, it's a win-win for me, all win. I didn't have to have. But I can again use this experience to support a candidate that I know is credible. So we need to begin to redefine loss and redefine win to enable us attain that middle ground. So that it is not, I have lost everything, I didn't get anything, and so let us all scatter it, you know, because if I don't get it, then no one else should.
Right.
It's bad mindset.
But there's also a problem institutionally, isn't it, with regards to the process and the people who run it? Because in the build-up to the elections, our coverage has spoken to people on the ground in Bayelsa, in Imo, in Kogi. They say, listen, it's all well and good to have this massive deployment of security personnel, but what is going to be their disposition towards the process? Are they going to lean on one side, or are they going to be neutral in enforcing the laws? There's also the talk of INEC. Is INEC going to be the neutral umpire that it is constitutionally designed to be, or is it going to act as if it has a dog in the fight? Which brings back the conversation around the selection process or nomination process of certain INEC officials. And recently, it has come back to the fore again when President Bola Tinubu nominated 10 resident electoral commissioners, and some of them have been known to be partisan over the past couple of years. In fact, recently, during the general elections, some of them have been outrightly campaigning for the current ruling party. What do you have to say to that, as to why this apprehension is now becoming a lot more emphasized in judging the performance of INEC, because people perceive that the umpire is not neutral? There's no way he can give you a credible and transparent election.
I think that we may need to revisit the criteria that is used for the appointments. We can appoint people who have, past experiences in diverse careers, who have distinguished themselves. Like, we can go to the academia and then pick some professors, that are not known to be aligned to any political party or affiliated. We can get past judges and magistrates, and give them these positions to run. And the criteria should be well spelled out, so that we avoid instances of conflict of interest. But where we have people who have been openly affiliated and associated with a particular political party, then we are not really ready Because even where they are objective, we will still say they are not objective.
Right.
Because we already know their history. So those are the things that we must address.
Yeah, it's safe to say that you've given us, you know, really a very interesting viewpoint regarding some of these developments as we continue the coverage of the off-cycle elections. Imo State already in the bag for the APC. I wish I can get some projections from you about what might happen in Kogi and in Bayelsa. But something tells me you might not be willing to say anything about that.
Well, if I'm not saying anything, it's just because of how unpredictable situations can be. But I can assure you that from the feelers I got before the elections, people were scoring SDP candidate very highly. And people thought that he was going to just sweep Kogi off its feet. And what we are seeing now is Bello coming on really strong with his candidate and kind of sweeping the polls.
You don't consider it a three-horse race?
No, unfortunately, because the issues with PDP that have played out since the presidential elections, I believe that they could have had a more neutral candidate who didn't play the kind of role that Dino played during the presidential elections. They may have given him the ticket to compensate him for what they perceived to have been a good job. But if I was to make that decision, I would not have given Dino, I'd have given someone else who was less conspicuous in the events of the presidential elections.
For you, Kogi is still between Ododo and Ajakat?
That is it for
Bayelsa, Stevie Silva against Governor Duro.
Joy Diri.
Yeah, do you anticipate some sort of big showdown there?
Well, I think that APC is going to put up a very big fight because the South states matter a lot to the party at this point, because you know this is like a test run for the party for its popularity. So I believe that they're going to work very hard to make sure that APC gets it.
Okay, I do hope for some reason we get you back to further analyze some of these developments, because we're gonna have to cut you know, the conversation here and cross over to Bayelsa. But Madam Dorothy Nuhu, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Really appreciate your viewpoints, and thank you for your analysis this afternoon. All right. We're going to cross over to Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital, where the collation has resumed and is underway as INEC continues reeling out the votes in the off-cycle governorship election in the state. Do take a look at the scenes from the Collation Center. I will be back with a lot more from Lokoja and, of course, Bayelsa.
Eight, 7, 9, 4, 2, 7, 9. Vote received by parties. Party A, 5. Party A, 5. Party AA, 1. Party AA, 1. Party ADC, 2, 4. ADC, 2, 4. Party AD, 2, 9. Party AD, 2, 9. Party APC, 6, 0, 8. 6, 0, 8. Party GA, 8. 0. Party A, 0. Party B, 0. Party BP, 0. Party LP, 2, 7. LP, 2, 1, 7. Party NNP, 2. Party NNPP, 2. The NRM, 4, 5. NRM, 4, 5. PDP, 3, 5. 0, 5, 5, 4. PRP, 1, 1. PRP, 1. PSEP, 2. Party SDP, 2. Party ZLP, 4. Party ZLP, 4. Total valid vote 42467. 42467. Rejected vote 393. Rejected vote 393. Total votes cast 42860. 42860. Total votes cast 42860. 42860. The result is as presented, sir.
A collation officer. Were there issues as a result of the election from the government? Was there a place or a point where there was no election, or the election was held and the results were cancelled, and then you tell us why it happens that way? Thank you.
All right. We have two issues in 2 wards with electoral process. Violence occurs around that particular unit, and the result from that unit is cancelled due to that disruption. The second one is Toru Ebeni, Ward Court 1-2, that is 12, in polling unit 01. There was a case of overvoting. We compared with the viewers, and it has been established there was a case of overvoting. Council. So the total number of council vote in that 2 units of the 2 different wards stand at 1,412, 1412. The distribution is as follows. In Ebedibiri 05, the total number of PVCs 468 was cancelled, and in Toro Ebeni 001 polling unit 944 PVCs were collected, and because of the overvoting, those results, when you sum them up, it will give you the total number of 1412 votes were cancelled in that local government area. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, observations from the identify yourself and the party you are representing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Dennis Otiotio, and the observation I want to make here is that in some wards of Sabama, Ufuni, and in some parts of Epedebili, the beavers were bypassed. But despite protests by our agents, those results were collated. Some of the electoral materials were hijacked and taken to some VIPs' houses. The report was made yesterday. INEC is aware that some materials were hijacked in Sabama. But I'm surprised that those units were also collated, and they all form part of this result that is being announced here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Unfortunate situation.
Thank you very much. I hope you've made your formal complaint, agent. It will be taken officially. Thank you. All right. Any other one? Any other party agent? Please, yes. Yes, please. Tell us your name and the party you are representing. Thank you.
My name is Victor Rene Polifisi. I represent Accord. Before now, I called last night, I called my agent in Ofoni, Ebedebri, Tororua, and those areas, because I heard some reports, and he told me categorically that elections were conducted, everything was peaceful. So I was surprised, because my agent would have given me is now representing me. I am giving me the rightful information on what happened in those areas. So I'm surprised by the APC agent that were ordered. So my agent told me categorically that that's what happened. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other comment, please, so that we can make progress? Please be brief. Once you know the comment you are going to make has been raised by another person, you don't need to repeat it, please, so that we can make progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Indeed, I will be very telegraphic. My name is Right Honorable Tafodongono. I represent PDP. Now, it is not enough to make vague and nebulous allegations and observations. Going forward, if we have any issue to raise, let us be specific. If you say so thing happened, so name the place and present the facts so that we can react, instead of, because if we just do it this way, we're wasting our time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is this something new?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Alain Amade. I'm the agent of SDP. Mine is an observation and one question. The cancellation, I want to ask the cancellation that he announced, is it done at the polling units, or where is that cancellation done? Because now that one is the question. Then number two, my observation, because I observed that our agents, they told us that the election was conducted free. There was no issue, no violence, everything like that. But coming here, you will find out that right in your nose, they will take the results down to one canopy there. I want all of us to go there now. You see what they are doing there now. They will bring the result after collecting the thing from the polling units to local government. They will now come to your office here and begin to remove these places that other parties they are winning. They do not tell us that there is violence there. There was no violence. They are just removing these polling units from there because they know that the other parties got higher votes from there. That is what they are doing. So I want us to go down to the canopy now. You will see what the INEC people they are doing there. Thank you, sir.
Please, what they are doing is highly recognized. It is recognized. They are not doing anything funny. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, what they are simply, please listen. What they are simply doing there is reconciliation of figures. It is reconciliation of figures, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, please go ahead.
I think the most important thing is if it's peaceful. He has confirmed that it's peaceful. So can we move forward?
That's it. We are making progress. Thank you very much. Local government coalition officer, bring the result. Make sure it is signed and stamped. Thank you. Yes, is there any local government that is ready? Okay, Nembe local government, please come forward. Where's the EO? Oh, all right. So, please, the EO, tell us your name, and after which you transfer the mic to the LGO coalition officer. Thank you. Please sit down.
My name is Apiambo. Hello. My name is Apiambo Abe, electoral officer in Nimbe local government area. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Hassan Isiaka Imam, an associate professor from Federal University, Lafia, Nasarawa State, Nigeria. I am the collation officer for Nembe local government area in the governorship election of 11th November 2023 in Bayelsa State. The result for the Nembe governorship...
Please, the RAs, please. How many of them?
The Nembe local government has 13 RAs and 228 polling units.
Go ahead, thank you.
The result for the governorship election held on 11th November 2023 in Nembe local government area are as follows. Number of registered voters 99035. 99035. Number of accredited voters 27405. 4. Score by vote gotten by parties. A, Party A, 0. Party AA, 4. Party ADC, 2-6.
Please, just point of order. Take them twice. Party A, so that you carry everybody along. Sorry.
Party A, 0. Party A, 0. Party AA, 4. Party AA, 4. Party ADC, 2-6. Party ADC, 2-6. Party ADP, 1-8. Party ADP, 1-8. Party APC, 2, 4, 8. Party APC, 2, 4, 8. Party ABGA, 7. Party ABGA, 7. Party APM, 5. Party APM, 5. Party APP, 2. Party APP, 2. Party BP, 4. Party BP, 4. Party LP, Party LP, 1, 3. Party LP, 1, 3. Party NRM, Party NNPP, 1. Party NPP, 1. Party NRM, 1-6. Party NRM, 1-6. PDP, 4, 5, 6. PDP, 5, 4. PDP, sorry. PDP, 4, 5, 6. PRP, 3. PRP, 3. SDP, 29. SDP, 29. ZLP, 4. ZLP, 4. Total valid votes. Total valid vote, 27036. Total valid vote, 27036. Total number of rejected vote, 264. Total number of rejected votes, 264. Total vote cast 27300. Total vote cast 27300.
Thank you. Was there any polling unit that there was no election, or elections were held and the results were cancelled?
Yes,
you
sir.
tell us the reasons for the cancellation. Thank you.
In Okoroma Ward 1, Okoroma 1, Ward 9, 3 polling unit election was cancelled. And reasons is obstruction of the deployment process and bypass of the use of beavers. Then there are 3 wards that election was cancelled: Mimi, Ikesi, and Olua. Okay. Ward 11, Mimi, Ward 11, Ikesi, Ward 12, Olua Siri, Ward 13. Election was cancelled. Reasons: abduction, diversion, and obstruction of development, deployment of personnel and materials along on the route.
What do you understand by diversion? What do you mean by
the RAs were abducted, and the material, the personnel and the material were seized from them. Instead of taking the material to the designated polling units and...
Thank you. Comments, please. Let's make progress. Comments, please. Yes, APC, your name and then the party, even though we are seeing it on your face cap. Please still tell us your name and then the party you represent.
My name is Dr. Dennis Otiotu. It is unfortunate what is happening here. I was expecting that you would ask me at what stage.
Please, what I want from you, party agents,
yes,
make
sir.
your comments straight.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm doing, sir.
Make your case straight away.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Election was conducted. I am a registered voter in polling 003 of Ward 11. I went to my polling unit and I voted in Agrisaba. Results were collated and announced. Results were taken. The polling units were taken all to the Ward Collation Center, where the Ward Collation officer collated the results. And then when they were taken to the Nimbe local government headquarters for collation, an order came from from the REC that all the materials and the personnel should be taken to Inagua. Last night, and people said, no, this is suspicious. What is happening? They resisted. And this morning, the materials were taken here. At this point here, like I said, the results were collated at the unit level, all the 3 wards, and then uploaded to the IREV. These results were uploaded to the IREV, signed by the presiding officers that were designated for these polling units. And then at the ward level, they were accepted, collated. And then at this point, in this office here, in this very office, the collation of LG collation officer here used his discretion, I don't know where he got that, to cancel Ward 11, 12, and 13. Now in Ward 11, APC scored 11,039 votes. PDP scored 39. In Ward 12, APC scored 8,925 votes. PDP scored 46.
Thank you.
In Ward 13, let me finish, sir.
Please.
Let me finish, sir. In Ward 13, APC scored 7,001. PDP scored 74. The total votes scored by APC in those 2 wards, 3 wards, are 26,965, while PDP scored 159 votes. Now, these votes were cancelled. Now, we have come here, we've complained, and you said here that at this place, this is LGA Collation. Your regulations here are very clear. If you look at Regulation 76, which regulates collation at local government level, there is no room for cancellation of result. If these materials were hijacked, as he claimed, they would have been cancelled at the ward level.
Can you make,
they were not cancelled.
Can you make a formal complaint and
sir,
please make progress, please?
What formal complaint is that? That a local government officer will have, can you cancel at the state level, can you cancel result here?
Please, can you make a formal complaint?
You cannot cancel result here, and you are saying that the local government collation officer will cancel 26,000 votes.
Very much, please.
This is rigging, outright rigging, broad daylight rigging. Because results, if you check your RF, these results are in the RF.
You've made your case.
Appointed by the presiding officers, appointed by you.
You have
the ward collation officer that were appointed by you collected those results. And this man here, with due respect, a professor, is using, that was why.
You have made your case.
No, I have not finished that.
Please.
Let me finish.
Please.
When he says that they were cancelled because of obstruction of,
what is your case? Can you make your case very simple?
What I am saying,
and what we are saying is that as you are making a case, please make it formal.
What I am saying is that the LGA collation officer, after INEC ordered that all the local government where APC is winning should be taken to the local government headquarters. We are winning in South Region, they say bring it here. We are winning in Brass, they say bring it here. We are winning in Member, they say bring it here. While all the areas where PDP is winning, Sagbama, Ekarama, Kolokoma, they were all connected to the local government headquarters.
You have not presented any case. I have
not presented any case.
Please.
That the local government officer.
Just hold on.
No,
just hold on.
Ask him at what level were these words cancelled.
Please.
Was it... Where is the form
EC40G? Make it formal.
Where is the 40G? EC40G showing that there was no election in those areas.
Please.
Did those people feel any 40G?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
It's unfortunate.
Thank you.
What is happening here is daylight robbery.
Thank you
How
very
can
much.
the INEC order that 26,000 votes should be cancelled from a party because we are winning that place?
Very much. Thank you. Please.
You did not even ask him where is the 40G showing that the election were not held in those areas.
Can you hand over the mic to another person?
There is none. Why? Because none exists.
You have made your case.
He used his powers according to him. Where he got those powers, only God knows. Because
you have made your
Regulation 76 here is very clear. There is no room for a local government collation officer to cancel results.
You have made your case.
I have not. I have not finished. Because when INEC collaborate with political parties to begin to rig election in this place, it is disheartening and it's worrisome for our democracy.
Thank you very much, sir.
Because in the first place, the question, why will INEC order that the local government where APC is winning should be brought to this place to collate, while the places where PDP is winning should be collected by the local government? It's unfortunate.
Please, can you hand over? You've made your case. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, please.
Chairman, you are presiding and you are in charge. I want to first and foremost crave your indulgence to give me opportunity to also present my case.
Please,
yes.
Please, party agents, it's a general statement, please, to all of us. Please, let's be matured about this. I have told you in my opening remark that this is not the room where we will carry out judgment. By law, you are supposed to present your case and it ends there. The commission will take up the case as presented officially and it will be handled appropriately. But please, what we are interested in here is to listen to the figures that are coming in the name of results. Please. So please be brief about it. Thank you very much, sir.
Please permit me to address that last point.
No,
hold on, sir.
It's okay.
Please. Hold on.
Can we be orderly, please? Can we be orderly? Can we be orderly?
I have the protection of the returning officer. Now, I want to first make reference to clause 91, regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections. In the course of collation of results, there shall be opportunity for all complaints to be heard, insofar as they are not disruptive. I am not prepared to sacrifice clarity on the altar of speed. I have more grievous complaints than him, and that's why I want to, as clear as possible, but I'm mindful of the time too, clear as possible, present my constraints, my problems, and my challenges, and ask for a resolution. And I will also demonstrate to this forum that as collation officer, you have the power to grant the prayers I want to request for. Now, if you look at, you made the last point that were after the calculations, the figures, and so on. Please, with due respect, that is not the case. If that were the intention of the law, we have here collation support and result verification system. The secretariat is here. They are to help you as the collation officer to do calculations and ensure that there is mathematical accuracy. If that is all the work that we are supposed to do, then an erudite professor like you cannot be appointed to come here as a state collation officer to play this role. So we need to do more than that, and that is what I want to demonstrate, that as a collation officer.
Please get one point clear.
Yes.
We did not say we are just here, but if you have any complaint, make it formal.
Yes.
And not for us to stay here and start dragging on issues that we will not be able to resolve it here.
We will.
I hope you understand.
No, but
present the case and let's make progress. That's what we are simply saying.
Yes, by the time I make it clear, we'll be able to resolve it. Now, I want to draw our attention to the situation so that we have clarity of understanding. That we have grounds with the situation in Basambri, Nembe. There are two major components of the Nembe local government area. You have the Ogbolomabri section and the Basambri section. The Basambri, they have 4 wards in the mainland, and there are 3 wards in the suburbs. That is the Milo Ikensi and the Oluwasiri. There are 3 wards there. What INEC have done is that in the 3 wards where your own personnel, because if there is anything we need to do, even as people appointed by INEC to come and play this role, we have to protect our personnel. Your personnel were abducted, their personal liberty deprived, materials taken away. So INEC was able to stay alive to its responsibility and decided to cancel those 3 wards. Now for the other 4 wards, because those 3 wards were from the suburbs, so from the local government headquarters, Basambri Island, they were supposed to be taken to the various suburbs outside the highland, but it was not done. Everybody was held hostage. This is not hearsay. You have your internal reports, and INEC is not partial. If INEC said, look, there was abduction of our personnel and materials were not taken to those areas and we have cancelled it, I think that it should have the support of all of us, 1 million people in this society. Then the other area, the other ones, the 4 ones in the highlands, we want to contend here without fear of contradiction that there were no elections, so that this body has the right to ask that the beavers be queried. Because, and if I am allowed, I would like to demonstrate that, because if you look at the provisions of the law,
we don't have the luxury of time.
No, but I want us to have understand.
You see, please, this case is very simple. We have said it. Make a case, and we make progress, please. Even if we stay here until the next morning, this is not a courtroom. I hope you understand that.
It is not a courtroom, and I am experienced enough. I've been Attorney General after 7 years at the bar. This is not a courtroom. I know with the limits. But you are entitled. We must draw your attention to areas. When I talk about how INEC staff were maltreated, is it my personal concern? But I'm a Nigerian, I'm a public servant. And I feel that innocent INEC staff could be manhandled. So now on the issue of, I said that the beavers machine be interrogated with regards to those 4 words. Because since there were it is our contention that nothing took place there. And things were just formulated. If you look at section 47, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2022 as amended. Please, with your kind permission, let me read. To underscore the importance of our directing that
party agent.
Yes.
Party agent.
Yes.
I think I have been humble enough to accept and accommodate some of the excesses here. I have told you time without number, this is not a courtroom.
Of collation that you have the power to direct that. No, that is what you should do.
No. The complaint has been written and it has been submitted to appropriate quarters. So what do you want us to do?
No,
it will be handled officially.
No, that is. Please, can I make myself clear with the use of language? The point I am making is that this collation is not a robotic setup. That at this stage of the collation, that you have the right, when you are persuaded by the presentation, that
the documents are there that will study.
Not the documentation. If we were to rely on documents, then there will be no need even for agents to make comments as envisaged under the regulations. We have the power under the law to make presentations to you. Then it's left for you and your team to consider it and give a reasonable, fair and reasonable decision. That's why I am saying, and my prayer is that the beavers machines, the beavers are so crucial, and that in a situation where we are saying that the beavers were not deployed, there were no elections in an area, 4 words, and I was specific, I was not nebulous, 4 words, that those beavers machines be queried because of the pivotal importance, the importance of the use of beavers, because no election can take place if you don't deploy beavers, because that is what will be used for accreditation.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Please, you take a decision.
Thank you very much, please. Thank you. Next, is there anybody? I think we can make progress, please. Thank you. No, you have made a case.
I'm not.
Let's hear him. I remain Victor Wari Prefisi, the court. Sir, with the records the professor has and the EU shows that my party accord scored 0. It's a very laughable, pitiable, very funny situation. Sir, to the best of your knowledge, my deputy candidate of my party is from Nebe. Even though he cannot win, at least he has to vote for himself. He has a wife. He has a wife that has to vote for herself. Sir, please, sir, I'm sorry, sir, please.
Thank you very much.
No, sir, please, because I'm going somewhere. In this hall, we are all aware that recently they are at gunpoint. for the security agency is to protect lives and property. But in this hall, to my greatest surprise, we're trying to sweep those criminal activities under the carpet. Their lives are involved, but they are secure. Sir,
thank you.
These neighbor resorts have been seriously altered.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And so therefore, it will take its course.
Thank you.
I am not agree.
You are welcome to the State Collation Center, which is in Lokoja.
Have been seriously altered.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And so therefore, it will take its course.
Thank you.
I am not agree.
You are welcome to
It may not look it, but Zamfara is quietly raging. It is the explosive focal point of northwest Nigeria. Across 14 local government areas, bandits have been unleashing mindless violence.
We need presidential intervention in Zamfara State. Our governor is doing his best. Our own part, we are doing our best. We need federal intervention. I repeat, we need federal intervention.
No area, no village, no ward, no district that is not affected. No hour, no minute, no second that you cannot see bandits moving around, attacking our people.
Over 200,000 people have been displaced and over 6,000 deaths have been reported since May 2011.
All right, welcome back to our continued coverage of the off-cycle elections in Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa State. Well, there isn't much to talk about right now in Imo because it's been done and dusted. Hope Uzodinma has been declared winner by INEC, winning by some 500,000 plus votes, a landslide victory for him. But the drama continues to unfold, as you've seen a couple of minutes ago in Bayelsa, where INEC is still having to deal with some of those accusations, claims and counterclaims from the various political parties about certain irregularities that have been experienced or recorded in the conduct of Saturday's governorship exercise. Well, let's cross over to Kogi State, where there are some developments there. Initially, the plan was for collation to resume by 4 p.m. And as you've noticed, it's well past that hour. Shafiu Suleiman is standing by for us at the Collation Center in Lokoja. Shafiu, what happened regarding that continuation of collation?
As you rightly mentioned, the collation of result was continued by but the fact that there are three outstanding local government results that are expected. Only one out of the three local government officials, INEC officials, arrived. The collation center, that is the returning officers from Uganda are actually around, but then those from Ibaji and Lokoja are yet to arrive. This is the reason why the returning officer has to deal with journalists and other stakeholders here, exercise a little bit more patience to allow the two other local government officials to arrive so that the results can be collated at the same time. We did mention the fact that they are actually on their way. Some of them are on the sea, the others are also on the road, coming from Ajakuta. And then, as you are aware, so far, the INEC Collation Center here in Lokoja has received, or rather the returning officer has received results of the two local government areas out of the four local government areas of the state. So far, looking at the standing, APC won in 11 local government areas, while SDP had 6 local government areas. APC wins one local government area, Yaba West. And there have been concerns around, the collation of results, as it were, because party agents who are here, the collation center have raised a number of concerns. For instance, the controversial, one of the controversial local governments is Robori Bungo, where only results from 1 out of the 10 wards was presented here. The remaining 9 wards results were not collated in the course of
collation, party agents also raised concerns around, results that have been collated from Kogi Central, which they said they urged the commission to suspend or not to even accept, that it should cancel the result from Kogi Central because of what they called, huge irregularities recorded. But then the returning officer, the state returning officer, Professor Jensen Urama, told them that they should exercise patience because INEC, as it promised yesterday, is still working on those results. So far, he has to await the decision of the leadership of INEC, that is from the headquarters there in Abuja. Again, the result from Okene also raised dust as party agents raised concerns over, what they call almost 100% turnout looking at the result, which they say it is practically impossible to record such massive turnout of 93% of voters. They're also looking at the figures. The entire result was indicating that there was no rejections, there were no cancellations. Virtually everything went on smoothly. So they raised concerns around this. But then the returning officer told them that he has limitation. They can only channel their petitions, if you like, or their grievances to the chairman of INEC or the headquarters there in Abuja. But then an APC agent also from that, that is representing them here at the Collation Center, rose up to say, why is it that each time there is a result from their strongholds, agents from other political parties kick against it? Why don't they look at other results from their own strongholds who are also indicating almost landslide? So far, this is what has transpired in the last couple of hours, since the commencement of this collation. Right now, the returning officer has adjourned the sitting, if you like, until 7 p.m. when the collation will now resume.
And they cancelled, they had 10 votes and then they cancelled 9 results from 9 votes because of the irregularity. And then they reviewed the results of only one from the government that is actually was the valid works, where out of the 2,000.
Well, that has been the major concern, among party agents. They thought, since these grievances have been registered or these concerns have been raised and they have to do with the collation or have to do with some of the results that are being collated, they need to be addressed before proceeding with the exercise. But looking at the law, the returning officer told them that yes, their grievances have been registered, their grievances have been collated and channeled to the appropriate authorities. But that will not stop the collation from taking place. What will happen is that the entire process would have to depend on the outcome of the decision of the electoral management body headquarters, especially concerning some of these areas of grievances. He did mention that right from yesterday, INEC has already told Nigerians that it is actually looking into those key allegations and it's going to come up with a decision within 24 hours. So these decisions are still being awaited as we speak, and but then the collation continues.
It looks like it's going to be a long night for all of us covering this election. Thank you very much for the update. We'll definitely look back to the Collation Center in Lokoja by 7 p.m. In a matter of an hour, 2 hours plus, give or take, for the resumption of that collation. Thanks for the update. It's so safe. Back here in the studio. Look forward to the next hour or so expanding on some of these developments in Kogi and in Bayelsa. And also, I'm flanked by Yusuf Zango of Daily Trust newspaper, who would also be giving us thoughts on some of these developments. There's quite a lot to chew on, gentlemen. Good evening. It's been a very eventful weekend for the most part, largely because Imo has been declared, and for a lot of observers, we can't wait for the end of the collation. Your 2 cents on how things are shaping up so far.
I thought it was going to be a walkover in this matter, given that the Imo one was quickly announced, and I thought everything would be over. And given that Bayelsa had only 8 local governments, from the reports we had there was not much violence, and things looked to have worked smoothly. We didn't know that it's going to be like
but you look at the drama that is unfolding from the Collation Center and how the observers and party agents are kicking against the admission of some of these results. It doesn't look like there's anything that can be said that would deter INEC from accepting these results. And it looks like it's full steam ahead as far as this results are concerned. And Bayelsa is just a case in point. But also we have some sort of similarity with the same issues regarding Kogi, for instance, where The PDP is asking for cancellation of votes in certain areas. The SDP is also asking INEC to review and perhaps also cancel some results that have already been admitted. We've been here before.
Yeah. Yeah, actually,
do you think anything is going to change?
I don't know, because we have said it, that's the culture of Nigerian politician. He never says, okay, I've given up on this and I didn't do my homework very well. And sometimes you find that probably they have something to. It's good that INEC said, look, we're going to look at this, at least any doubt that they have, it will be cleared before they move ahead. And at the end of it, because mostly in Kogi, there is potential for violence. So if there is any fault or INEC falters along the line, emotions are high, and it may lead to this kind of problem.
In all of the states, bearing in mind that the states have, of course, their peculiarities. Of course, we were very, very surprised when we saw the Imo governorship election outcome announced, earlier in the day. But then again, if we look at the dynamics, of the actors who are in the race for Imo, we know it's a case of re-election, and in that situation, we see someone like the incumbent governor, Senator Uzodimma, who has,
in Bayelsa, it's the same.
Exactly. No, but then again, Bayelsa is a little bit different, isn't it? Because in the situation of Imo, where you have the incumbent governor who is a member of the APC, so he has the powers of Abuja and also the powers of incumbency in the state, I think it should be a smooth sail for him. But then in Bayelsa, we see a situation where, the candidate of the PDP and the incumbent governor has the power of the state, but the candidate of the APC has the support of Abuja. So that's where we see them matching each other penny for penny, if you would say.
To be fair to Abuja, actually, they haven't shown that. Maybe they have done that underground, but openly you cannot accuse the federal government of glaringly interfering in the process.
Interestingly, I was even surprised when I saw the candidate of the APC in Bayelsa State, Chief Timipe Silva, accused the army of colluding with the PDP to score through the process.
So you give it to the federal government. Actually, they have not come overtly to say, look, we're going to support our candidate there. So all along, I think we have had this impression, even the security agents were trying to be fair to all. You remember yesterday there was a talk of arresting, they said allegedly it was a APC stalwart who was caught with money and ammunition. I don't know how authentic that report is. But at least the security had shown to be fair. And I think if the federal government wants to use it, largely they will use the security.
Again, from our reporting and everything that we have observed, what does the margin of error look like in terms of the process itself?
Well,
was it a significantly flawed process across these three states?
To add to that, it's good that Abdullahi asked this question, because another thing one would ask is, the process, you all would agree with me, is one that some would say is heavily or was heavily militarized. Of course, I understand it's supposed to ensure that there's as little as possible when it comes to a breakdown of law and order, snatching of ballot boxes, and all of these rancors that comes with prosecuting elections such as this. But then again, don't you think that this is responsible for the blow dealt in the outcome of voters' turnout? Because there was some serious voter apathy. I mean, I saw the results coming in from some of these local governments, from some of these states, and the comparison in terms of numbers of accredited voters and numbers of PVCs collected, you realize that at the end of the day, it's just around 30%, of accredited voters or of PVCs collected in total that actually turned out to vote. So would you blame, the militarization of this system, the process, which in some way or in one way or the other, some would say pushed out or prevented Nigerians who are supposed to come out to exercise their franchise?
I think we should expect that, because I remember I was at a security meeting some years back, and the guy representing the place said their worst case scenario is off-season election, because you have to provide, I think, twice or three times the security you would have provided during the normal election process, because you have like Kogi borders about 9 states. So you expect maybe thugs will be hired from all this nonsense to come in and do. So, and when you look at it, even in terms of voter turnout, it was not much different from what happened in the general election. Right. You remember, even the presidential election, we're talking about 20-something%. So there are other underlying factors, because somebody will even wake up and find that, look, you wouldn't have, if say your voting booth or polling unit is about 1 kilometer, you may not even have the money to transport yourself there, given the situation.
But in trying to square that, you know, between the low voter turnout and then you look at the results in Imo State. Yes. The result does not suggest that there is low voter turnout, even though we have significantly reported low voter turnout. So how do you make that make sense to Nigerians who say the result looks like people massively came out?
Well, I think for us, we can. It's difficult to start guessing, because you you are trying to infer something illegal happened. But for us, I don't think we should go into that trap. But I think what we wait is, let's see the other contenders, whether they will bring in or any evidence to show that the result declared was really contrary to what really has transferred down.
I think it's a case of two things happen. It's either our reporting is wrong about low turnout.
No, it's not that our reporting is wrong. No, it's not that our reporting is wrong. Because if you say our report, we didn't report it alone.
I'm talking about the media.
Generally the media. Yes. So you can't say all of us are wrong.
I mean, civil society was voter turnout was low.
Yesterday I was listening. The Situation Room said there was about 60% turnout in Imo. 80% in Kogi. So what are you talking about? So whatever the result comes out, it's not our fault who reported this, because at least the CSO have been critical of INEC, have been critical of political parties. They have been hammering on this low voter turnout for long. So if they come out on their own to say, look, we have had this, then I think it also proves that what was reported was really true.
Then, editor, there's the issue of naming and blaming that's been going on, of course, across all of the states. The Labour Party, the PDP, has come out to say, look, we're not going to accept this because we don't think that this is the outcome of a fair process. We've seen the same thing happening in Kogi State. We see the same thing also happening, you know, in Bayelsa State with the protest earlier this morning. The INEC people should do what is necessary and ensure that the rights of the people prevail. But then again, are you surprised by the outcome so far? I mean, with all of the intrigues, with all of the things that have gone on, the issues that has played out in this election, is it in any way different from what we have seen in previous times? Now, let's not even make a comparison with, you know, the 2023 general election. Let's say the last 4 years, the Kogi election. Has there been any improvement?
I don't think there has been any improvement, because you see, my own worry about the politics in Nigeria is that it's not issue-based. Because if it were issue-based, the federal government would have been a test on the policies of the federal government. So you find that they not only localize it, the worst aspect, even at the local level, issues were not discussed. We're discussing personalities.
I mean, I would say issues were discussed. I mean, it depends on the quality of the issues. I mean,
which issue in Kogi?
Ethnicity, for instance.
Well, it's not an issue.
Right. But it is to the voters.
Exactly.
It may be to the voters, but I think for Nigeria,
these are the things that make, these are the criteria they set when selecting, you know, their leaders.
But we should, my argument is that we should move away from that kind of politics. Because does it help us? My brother or my son is there. If he has not performed, he has not performed. It will not change my life. So it's not the. I think we are even retrogressing as far as I'm concerned. Now we should be discussing issues. What has happened in Kogi State? What has happened in Bayelsa? What has happened in terms of the living condition of the ordinary citizen? But we have not moved away from that.
In talking about the quality of the electoral process vis-a-vis the constitutional provisions, much has been said about why it does appear that we're always in a hurry to get to the announcement of the result in light of every irregularity or complaint that needs to be attended to, that in the interest of due diligence, we should have some sort of buffer where INEC, for instance, in Kogi, where it has, suspended the tabulation of certain results from wards that, were identified to have, observed some sort of irregularity there, bypassing the Beavers accreditation system. What is your take on how we're still unable to address those gaps? Just forging ahead with the coalition despite all of these complaints that have some sort of credibility to them.
Yeah, they may have credibility, but you also have to look at the process. Now, if the process says that, look, if you have complaint A, everything should stop until it is sorted out. And then we'll always come out and say, look, we are following the law. So if the complaint A says that, look, if party A complains and this is the complaint, the voting or the collation or the counting should stop until that is sorted out. Well, I'm fine. At the end of the day, you remember sometimes during the collation you had the INEC official saying that, well, we have collected your petition, we'll hand it over. And they will look at it at the appropriate level. But meanwhile, the collection continues. So I think, you see, the thing is, we need to continue to review our electoral laws to see the gaps in between. Like what Jonathan said, is something that we should look at. Look, do we continue with off-season elections? Because they create more problems than they solve. So these are issues which I think over time we should be looking at them and saying, look, this is how we should correct. At least to adapt this process to our system so that it provides, because we have so many problems and sometimes it's very difficult to solve every problem. But along the line, we should be able to do that.
Right. I said 11 minutes ago on the IREF portal, Kogi State, 96.09% of the votes have been uploaded on the IREF portal. And for Bayelsa, which is still outstanding, 93% of it. So of the 2,242 polling units, 2,102 have so far been completed. Let's talk about that, IREF, because it is part of the transparency mechanism that INEC has built into the elections. It's nice that there were no glitches this time around.
It's good that we didn't have glitches, but at least by now I would have expected INEC to have finished uploading that everything, because the voting stopped at 4 p.m. yesterday, and these results were even from the polling booths. So how long would it take for them to count the given that there was low voter turnout across the 3 states? So how long would it take to do that?
But very high figures on the results.
Yeah, even at 93, I think by now we should have been over with that kind of thing.
And usually the global trend is that when you get to 90-something%, you already know who the winner is.
Who the winner. So even this issue of who is, who have this problem. Because mark you that, look, the agents, party agents signed these results before they were uploaded. So what's happened in between? And most of these parties have what they call the situation room, monitoring what's happening along the line. So sometimes
do you think that, despite the modernization of our electoral process, it still does appear crude? Because we still have to get to the collation centers, we still have to enter the numbers manually.
While we're talking about that, then we can also visit the conversation of the manual accreditation of voters. I still cannot wrap my head around why that was experienced in places in Kogi State, and which brings me to this question. By and large, all of what has happened has happened. We've seen issues that happened before the election, that's during the campaigning era from local government to local government. We saw all of the back and forth. We saw the breakdown of violence in different parts. Now, not only in Kogi State, of course, even in Imo with the issues between the Imo State governor and the NLC president, which as at this time, even upon winning his election, we know the NLC is obviously not done with that. But then again, it's going to be post-election soon, and while I know that definitely everybody has a right, to appeal the outcome of the election, do you have any fears, with regards to situations getting a little bit tense, if not more, following this outcome?
Well, I don't think so, because so far in Imo, they have announced the result, and so far nothing has happened. My fear is if INEC delays the announcement, because the more you delay, the more you allow for rumor to go around, and with this social media, it gets worse. So I think it's incumbent on INEC, if they want to solve this problem or guard against escalation or violence, for them to be able to announce the result as quickly as possible, because the delay also raises fear, and politicians or any other who feels that he's losing out may raise false alarm. And with social media, fake news all over, you find these kinds of things. Before you know it, it starts escalating.
Do you understand and accept the rationale behind what's going on in Kogi State, for instance, regarding this particular election? When the collation began, and we understand that Ogori Magongo local government area, which is the bone of contention with regards to those irregularities, was the first stop to present their results, and only one particular award was received. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially since you have a lot of sorting out to do regarding those exercises.
To me, I thought they should have even delayed that, because you have council voting in, so I think about 9 polling units or so, wards. Then wards, then you are just counting, announcing. No. Wait until you collect everything, because you are doing it local government by local government. So why are you in a hurry to do that? These are issues which raise unnecessary tension.
Exactly, and I know that these are the issues that are going to delay the adjudication process of the outcome of this election.
If I'm in NRM in Kogi now, I can start crying wolf, even though I know that I'm not going to win. Because an opening has been made for me to just cry wolf unnecessarily.
Right, so far they've announced 18 out of the 21 local government areas, and the 18 are not complete. I mean, we just talked about Ogori Magogo, so clearly they're going to have to revisit that. But let's talk about how high the tensions are and how close the race really is. I mean, it's APC versus SDP. I mean, Dino Mela is somewhere in the mix, as perhaps the distant third runner-up. But what do you make of how high the tensions are, and also how critical INEC needs to be about the result it dishes out?
Yeah, because in Kogi, you see, is from comes from what we said earlier, is the issue of tribal politics. Now you have these extreme cases where the Ibras and the Igalas, and these are the two contenders. So I think tension will be high now, especially given the antecedents of all the sides. The Igalas have had to wait for 8 years, and it's something that all along been taken for granted, because since the 1999 there have been the rulers, or they have been holding that position until the death of Prince Audu, and Yahya Bello came in. So the tension will be high, and that's why I will still go back to the issue that, look, the earlier INEC sorts out this, the better, because as soon as they sort it out, then it moves away from INEC and goes to the court. Anybody who has a problem will wait for the tribunal. At least it may reduce that tension for some who are reasonable.
The PDP candidate, Dino Mela, is already accusing INEC of some gross irregularities. Isn't it already complicating issues for
No,
INEC?
it's not, because to me, like what I told you, if I'm in NRM now, in Kogi, I will still complain. Even if I know that I'm not going to win. As he said earlier, Dino Mela is coming distant third. So, naturally, Dino Mela will complain. You remember his role during the collation, during the presidential election. So I'm not surprised that he's complaining, but he has the right to complain also. And if he has evidence, well, I'm fine. But what I still would like to emphasize is for the fact that INEC should not delay the announcement of that result.
And for Nigerians watching and saying that you know, we have to demand for high quality election, especially if you look at the monies that we always spend on our elections. Our elections are some of the most expensive elections on the continent. Are we getting value for money? What would your answer be?
Well, I think it's our attitude, because it doesn't need to cost that much. Now, like what Professor Jega gave, I remember that story, that he went to Kenya, and he, around 8 p.m., it was just the polling officer and a lantern there. People were coming in to vote. No problem, no nothing. Even though at the end of the result, at the end of when they announced the result, there was violence in Kenya. As long as we do not change our attitude, this will continue. First, the politicians. Second, the electorate. Because for a Nigerian politician, it's a do-or-die affair. I must win. So that will continue. And how would the government address this? How would the government feel that, look, I'm going to be, even if it is in court, trying to be fair to all, is to deploy massive security into that area. And the effect was, we all said that many people will be scared of even coming out to vote, because if I just pop in out of my house and I saw an array of security people, I'll just go back if I don't want trouble.
Exactly. So
and yesterday they said there was, I think I was watching the channel reporter saying shooting and Imo. So all these are the factors.
There have been some isolated incidents of violent attacks, even a case of death, I think in Kogi, also one party store was reportedly killed.
In Bayelsa.
But also in Bayelsa, aside from just the political attacks, an INEC official was kidnapped, although released. But also we learned today, this afternoon in Brass, some INEC officials have been held hostage somewhere. Let's talk about that, the safety of INEC officials itself, and how that may undermine the electoral process if you cannot guarantee the safety of INEC officials.
Yeah, it still comes back to the politician himself. Because we have been, since 1999, we have been having this problem. Actually, even before 1999, we have had situations whereby politicians will say, okay, win by all costs. Let my opponent take me to court. I know that when I go to court, at least, I have the case will delay.
But aren't the electorate the biggest losers now in situations where the entire electoral process now becomes just some form of game, where at the end of the day, the entire electorate comes out to at least try to exercise their rights of voting who becomes their next set of leaders in the state, only for after a couple of months you hear that the case has been adjudicated, and for one reason or the other, because of the actions of some politicians, some unscrupulous politicians if I would add, and then in the end the mandate is given to someone else who comes in as a Supreme Court governor.
Why we have had that
and then you're in for some
governors, Supreme Court inquired.
In all of this, how much of blame would you ascribe to politicians for prolonging unnecessarily, the outcomes and the procedures of adjudicating or of prosecuting or even of conducting elections?
Now, I think I will not even blame the politician per se. I will blame us as electorate.
Okay.
Now, the typical Nigerian politician we know is a question of whatever the circumstance, let me win. But we know who is good and we know who is bad. Unfortunately, the politician will use us. Who abducted INEC politicians? Ordinary, officials. Ordinary
but they are being used by the politicians.
Okay, right? If will you be used?
Okay, so now in this, I was listening to an argument earlier today. It's good that you brought this up. And then there was this analogy that was made between the immoral minority and the moral majority, and the situations where, unfortunately, the immoral minority would have their way no matter what, because they will impose it, on the moral majority. However, the moral majority remains complicit, because the moral majority would ensure that the immoral minority pass through them to get whatever it is that they want. So would you now blame, the electorate or citizens for being what they are because they want to survive?
Let me give you an example. Back in 1999, in Kankia local government in Katsina State, the youth there had a candidate who was PDP. But at PDP headquarters, they changed that guy. What they did was, the youth went back and said, look, okay, we agree. You whom we want, just move to AD. AD was Action Democrat. Nobody, I think that's the first party, nobody knew them up in the north. You see, it was Olufala and Co. was there. But the youth came together and they were campaigning for that guy. And he won. He was the only AD candidate in the Katsina State House of Assembly then. So if we could, the citizen could replicate that and say, look, this is the guy we want right from the process, and take their destiny into their hands. But if you continue to say...
But how do we achieve that when we see situations like yesterday, where inducement rose from 1,000 naira to up to 30,000 naira, in a situation where Nigerians are coping with the biting effect of the fuel subsidy removal, with a lot of people not even knowing what to eat, the next meal they will be having. And then, they are in queue and trying to vote, and
that has always been the excuse.
What is right and what is wrong, when we are supposed to be talking about what should be in the stomach.
Before we had this fuel subsidy issue, people are still giving that as a reason for collecting. But it takes, there's no thing that comes, there's nothing good that comes with that.
So the excuses never end.
Yeah, the excuses will never end. So if you can just make up your mind and look at your future, the future of your children, your grandchildren, and this is why we are now. Because over the years, we always blame the politicians on bringing us to where we are now. Because largely it is the fault of the politicians, but we empower them. When we elect the wrong people, and even when they go in there, we don't do anything.
But isn't it also a function of what the society have to offer? Because the politicians, they are a product of our society.
Exactly.
They didn't come from us.
Of course, they did not.
So unless you come out and say, look, this time around we are going to choose the good ones, and the good should triumph over the bad, we'll continue to have this problem. And it doesn't take much. Because as I give you an example, you don't even need to, if you have a good candidate, he doesn't need to spend a kobo. Because people will be there to campaign for him and convince others to vote for him.
Well, we've spoken about INEC, we've spoken about politicians. Hell, we've also spoken about, the electorate and the citizens of the state. But then again, let's talk about the security agencies. So we saw them on top of their game from yesterday till today, even before, yesterday with their show of force and all of that, in preparations for the election. Yes, it's been really good, the reports coming from the different states. However, do you think that Nigeria is better off having a more, now how do I put this? Nigeria is better off having elections with more security personnel available and on ground, and less voters because of fear, rather than an election with less security operatives and more voter turnout?
Yeah, that's why I say we need to sanitize our politics. And that's why I gave the example of what happened in Kenya. And I'm not even talking of developed countries like UK, where you get you can even vote through post, because that's why even our elections are very expensive, because each security personnel will have to be paid allowance, he has to be kitted, and all those kind of things happening, Then you also open them to corruption. And mark you that we don't have even the numbers. So every day you have to bring in police, you have to bring the military. Military has no business in politics or in the electoral process. Then you bring the NSDC, you bring even the road safety.
It's an all hands on deck kind of situation.
You see, and it doesn't solve any problem. So every day we militarize our democratic process, and it becomes a norm. So you find that people will go out unless they see a uniform guy, they don't feel confident, they don't feel free to go and exercise their right, which they should take for granted.
What are some of those pitfalls that INEC needs to do to avoid the tag of an institution that continuously fails to deliver as expected? Because we keep churning out these results that in the court of public opinion is deemed rigged or marred by irregularities. What does INEC need to do to avoid this tag on this particular election? I know that it cannot win every single hearts and mind out there. There are definitely a lot of people, even if the evidence points to the other direction, they will still see things this way. But what does INEC need to do from this point going forward to add value to the election, to not just make it seem free, fair and credible, but also transparently we can actually show that the elections were such?
Yeah, over time we have seen that we have moved a little bit far from the process we have. We try to bring in technology into the system. The most important thing for INEC to do is to strictly adhere to the rules. That's number one. If they can adhere to the rules with fairness to all sides, then they have won the first battle. But another important thing also is the personnel, because much as they try to say, look, we are going to follow the rule, you have a situation whereby a personnel may be induced. Look at what happened in Kano after the tribunal judgment in the governorship case. A legal officer sat down, wrote a letter that the INEC was not going to contest.
Adamawa State also.
Look at what happened in Adamawa State. So their personnel also matter. Then I think one thing we failed to do in this country is massive enlightenment for an ordinary citizen to know his right and responsibility. And if the ordinary citizen knows the right and responsibility, that citizen can help INEC to ensure that its rules are followed. He will follow the rule and ensure that the rules are followed. Because anybody who comes in to say, because as at now, this electoral law, the constitution regarding to electoral process, they are all for the elites.
But there is also the case of the quality of the people that are heading such an institution. Recently, it has been re-echoed again when President Tinubu nominated those 10 new resident electoral commissioners. And we have notable people in that list who have already been confirmed, by the way, by the Nigerian Senate, who have partisan connections.
Yes.
There is no way you can expect someone with partisan connections to be neutral in an election, is it?
Yeah, it follows. And it follows what happened. When they were nominated, in spite of the objections raised, they were approved by the Senate. So how much? And you see, another thing you can look at is, even when it was open, that some of them had their partisan, not much cry came from the public. The CSOs were upset. Those are the people.
I mean, some were raising the
Well, some of them, but
also, isn't it very telling that you have a Senate that has, bipartisan configurations, APC, Labour Party, PDP,
someone would have
but also nobody raised an eyebrow.
That is another thing, because you see, the problem with those in those chambers is that if it is my turn today, it may be your turn tomorrow. So I can patiently wait. It's just like the SUVs.
I knew that was going to find
because ordinarily we would have expected that a good opposition will say, look, we are not going to collect that. PDP will instruct its lawmakers, we are not going to let. Labour Party will do that. But they did it.
But what picture does that paint of the National Assembly? What picture does that
Well, I think everybody does. You see, so it raises quite an alarm to the ordinary Nigerian. Like, those people you have there are not ready to protect you, to move your cause. So at least it should be open to Nigerians. And look at the explanation they were given. The explanation was that the roads were bad, so they needed the SUVs to move around. So this issue of at least those in power would like to have their people there, you know. So like what Erufai said, that when you become a minister, give your enemies a plot. So it's something, the plot. So that's that kind of thing. For the politician, he wants to empower himself. He wants to empower those guys around him. But it's for us as citizens, the CSO, the ordinary citizen, to come in and say, look, we are tired of this. We don't want this.
So what do we do about, you know, public opinion about these elections? Because as much as we like to discountenance public opinion because of its, you know, flexibility, it could be here today, it could be here tomorrow. It's not usually grounded on evidence. It's usually influenced by sentiments. There are certain concerns that are genuine. We've seen in this election, members of the public, voters, apprehend someone who is trying to run away with the ballot. In Kogi, we've seen that. In Bayelsa, we've seen them also apprehend even a security personnel who is aiding and abetting in some of these instances. How do we make sure we're being fair to INEC without necessarily rubbishing all the concerns that Nigerians have about these elections by making them look political and partisan? How do we do that to give, you know, to weigh the pros and cons of these elections and call a spade as far as the quality of our election is concerned?
Yeah, it depends on us as individuals, because we should follow up also. Because I always tell people sometimes that, look, if you can survive, if you have done something in public wrong in Nigeria, if you can survive the first 7 days or 2 weeks maximum, another thing will come up and we'll forget. We easily forget. Now, people have been arrested. We do not follow up to see whether they are going to be prosecuted or not. It's the responsibility of us as citizens, especially those of us in the media. We should have a follow-up. Like last year, you remember 4 years ago, PDP one was killed, she was burnt. Up to now, the case is there. 4 years after. And nobody has said anything, or nobody is saying anything. We do not do any follow-up. So Nigerians easily forget. If we insist that justice must come, now the one, even during the last election, but the current election, the EFCC sent its people. I believe the ICPC also sent people. Police sent in people. They made some arrests. I bet you in the next 6 months we'll forget about that.
Yeah, I mean, EFCC rather was just talking about how it intercepted some 11 million
exactly.
And in Kogi State, the council chairman of Igalamela, I think, was arrested, even though we understand that he was released alongside some individuals who had cash of arms as well as cash they're trying to induce voters with. I mean, we always talk about electoral fraud, and why we need to punish it to, you know, to influence or restate deterrence. But we don't see that happen more often, do we? And that's why there is no deterrence.
This
very
brings
limited
us to the
deterrence.
question of the establishment of the Electoral Offences Commission.
Exactly.
I mean, you spoke about issues that happened during the election, and then 4 years after, we're yet to find out if those issues have been concluded, properly. And then again, here we are. But you were saying?
Yeah, you have just said it. We had a proposal for Electoral Offences Commission. Nothing has been heard about it. I don't think it has been passed, you know. And there were so many other issues, even in terms of reducing the workload of INEC. Because if you say, under the law now, current law is that INEC is supposed to prosecute those caught on, with electoral offences. So how would INEC do that when it is busy representing itself in how many cases all over the country? So do they have the manpower? Do they have the money to do that? You see, so that's the problem. Unless we go back, and actually it goes back also to what you said earlier. These are the issues that we need to do some reform in terms of our electoral process, so that we'll be able to say yes. But you see, the major problem we have is sometimes you find that most of our establishments are not even sincere. Everybody wants to be part of it. AFCC wants to be part of the electoral process, so it will deploy people. At the end of the day, they will bring out money, spend money, and make announcement. We duly carry it in papers and radio, and the end of it, that's the end of everything. Well, even those arrested during the last election, nothing has been heard of it, even not first appearance, or what is the outcome of the investigation. We haven't had anything about it.
Well, talking about developments from Kogi State, the Accord Party candidate, Admiral John Jibrin, retired, has called for cancellation of the election. The Accord Party governorship candidate in the gubernatorial election called for cancellation over the exclusion of his party's name from the ballot paper. He said this at a press conference in Aimba. He described the action of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, as a surprise turn of event, saying he's contemplating legal action against the body over the incident. So now we have another case of...
You see, there are due process, so I think he has done the right thing. You have removed me, one I am fully qualified, you go to court. And let's see what the tribunal or the courts will say about it.
But the case he raised, omission of his party's name from the ballot paper, are these mistakes we should be seeing? I mean, INEC had some good number of months.
Has it been established to be?
Of course, but he has alleged it, of course.
Right. Well, he must have established it, because if he comes out to say that's line against INEC, and it's a criminal case for him. So I think I don't know really. I'm not here for INEC, but INEC has some questions to answer if it is really true that that party was left out, because this is something that they didn't just start preparation on it last week, and there was a process where they published the names of those who were contesting the initial list, then the final list. You remember the case of Silva. Yeah, it was just last week when his name was added after the court case. So I think it's something that, well, since he said was going to the court, we'll wait and see. Maybe also INEC may react to it. I don't know.
And then looking at the safety of all of these states where the elections have taken place, in Kogi and in Bayelsa, and also slightly in Imo, because the dust has not settled yet.
Yeah.
You can imagine easily that there would be court cases arising from this particular exercise.
Yes.
But that is also one of the issues that continues to worry and concern a lot of Nigerians who say that, listen, voting now is just one of the process, because the court still has to have its say. So our democracy is still, in a sense, being usurped by the judicial process, not through any fault of the judiciary, but because we still are unable to conduct credible polls that can stand the test of time without any politician coming out crying foul saying that he was rigged out of the election.
Well, there are two issues to this. Sometimes it could have been the fault of INEC if they do not follow the due process to do it. But largely you find that whatever the circumstance, you find politician a Nigerian politician doesn't easily give up. Actually, somebody was telling me it was also part of a political strategy if you don't go to court. If you are defeated, you don't go to court, it means that you are nobody. So what you do is you go to court on the day of when the case is being called, you bring in we have seen the drama at Supreme Court, at the appeal court, where people came from far and wide to come and pitch tent and start drumming. These are part of the processes of electoral processes, which in Nigeria, where they may not be codified, but unfortunately that's the system. The thing is that we need to change our political culture to find that there is a process to do it, and we ensure that this process is followed. By ensuring that right from the word go, that this process is followed, like what the Accord guy said, I don't know why I thought they would have a process whereby they would see.
I would love to hear what he said before the elections.
Yeah, before the election, to see whether his name is there and how his name got missing. So these are the things which the politician, or if any candidate is there, he should try and see that due process is followed. Number one. Number two, you find that some of them, like we've said here a number of times, some of them don't even have agents in their in many polling booths. And at the end of the day, they come in and they go to court and claim so many things. So I think we need a new political culture in this. And we need to have matured politicians in Nigeria to chart the course. And so that they will ensure that due process is followed. Wherever there is a fault, it will be very apparent that, look, this guy is at fault. Either ANEC, the security, the politician, or whoever it is. Yes.
And in talking about the coalition, in Kogi we have 3 outstanding local governments to get to. In a matter of a few hours, we would hopefully, probably, it's supposed to be an hour, 15 minutes or so, give or take. But we know how popular African time is in Nigeria, so we would not hold our breath to make sure that they start at 7. But if they start at 7, give me your sense of how time is critical as a factor in making sure this whole process is completed as soon as possible. Also in the case of Bayelsa, because that is also being wrapped up right now.
I said earlier that the earlier ANEC tidies up this, the better for the country. Actually, because especially in these 2 states, because the tension is high and anything can happen. And given our culture of false news in the media, somebody will come and ignite unnecessary problem.
But do you understand why it's taking time? Because it cannot be logistical.
I really don't know.
Some of the local government areas that have yet to
mostly
be
in Bayelsa, why they have only 5 local governments, but I can understand probably the terrain. But they have no complaint about the terrain. So I don't know really what's happening.
The delay.
What's causing the delay. But for whatever it is, I think also the politicians can also help in the sense that, look, let's agree, let's have this done. But I think the most important thing is for ANEC to be firm. If it is sure of its the rules and regulations, then there's nothing hard about them coming out to say, look, this is the winner, this is the loser. As simple as, well, I may be naive, but I think it's as simple as that, because there are rules and regulations. Like what they said, we're canceling this, we're suspending this, voting this, and it will follow this. And they know how much is required for them to announce a result. If substantially they have the results, well, fine, they can announce it. And whatever, if what they have in the kitty, which has not been concluded, will not substantially affect the outcome of the result, then they don't have any reason to hold it.
Editor, I'd like your perspectives on this call that's been going on for quite a while, and that is to change the selection process for appointing the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I don't bother whether it's changed or not, because it's just like what we spoke about earlier. Now, they brought in 9 or 8 or 9 electoral commissioners. All of them were cleared. Nobody complained. The Labour Party people who are there didn't complain. The PDP guys who are there, they didn't complain. So whatever it is, because you see, the problem is that we are, most of us are open to inducement, either at the National Assembly or wherever. So that it's as simple as that. So who are you even, what process will you bring that will not be questioned? And the process, again, in this country, you found that the president, whether he is in charge directly or not, he can be in charge.
Right. From what we've seen so far, is this an improvement on the exercise we had some couple of months ago?
Yeah, to some extent, we have had few cases of beavers failure,
malfunctioning. We had some.
We had some exactly, and as they said, as I gave example, the situation room said from their report, 80% or more than 80% of polling booths open at 8:30 in Kogi, 60%, more than 60% open at 8:30 in Bayelsa. I can't remember. I think in Imo it was about 20-something%, but you could understand that of Imo. So I think it's an improvement. And as you said also, the Arab at least worked this time around. Yeah.
Still at 90-something. I don't think we're ever going to get 100%
upload.
Because even for the presidential election, the upload is still not complete. I don't know how to explain it.
I don't know why it shouldn't be 100%, honestly.
Okay, well, Yusuf, thank you very much for the analysis. We're going to have to leave it here for now. But our coverage of the off-cycle elections across Imo, Kogi, to be fair, across Kogi and Bayelsa at this point, because Imo is done and dusted, still continues as we head back to those locations in Lokoja as well as Yenagoa. But Lokoja, we're going to have to wait until 7 p.m. That is the time when the collation will resume. For Bayelsa, we will bring you update on that as well. But at the top of the hour, we're going to have to get you up to date with some of the day's other news, because I get a feel that Nigerians are already feeling exhausted with all the election talk. So a news update is coming up at 6.
Well, thank you very much for watching, and do stick around for the news at 6.